jam! Hello again and welcome back to it. No, that's the wrong intro. I was just talking to Bill, so my brain is in Monday Night Magic.
That's my fault, sure.
Look, you're here, so I'm going to blame it on you. Let me try it again. Ow, jam! Hello again and welcome to the Mana Pool. This is episode 501.
We've reached the other side, gentlemen.
We are now genes. Right? 501s? Those are genes, right?
Yes, sir.
Sure. I don't look that closely at the stuff I put on my legs, so.
Welcome to grad school.
501's a highway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basically any 2 or 3 digit number is a highway, right? All right, then.
Good clues to figure it out.
I didn't have enough time to check them all. Sorry.
Well, what were you doing all day, Mike?
Goofing off.
So this is episode 501. Like I said, after recording or streaming or whatever, both, episode 500, I got sick and died. But I'm back now. Did you just hear me break my finger?
I wondered what that was.
So I'm Chewie, the lead dork, and the man with the freshly broken finger. With me, as always, are some other dorks. Hi, you guys talk for a minute. I'm going to go mute and cry.
Hey, I'm Brian. I'm the lead Rambler, Tangent Master type guy. And I got thinking about it, and if Chewie was Fox McCloud, would that make me Falco Lombardi? Because Mike is definitely Peppy.
Mike is definitely Peppy Hair. Does that mean Dirk is the obnoxious Slippy Toad? Oh,
but he's green.
That's
you know.
true.
Help me, Fox! Thank you. You saved my life.
Good
I
luck.
was supposed to get through.
Your father helped me like that, too.
And see, I thought our other guest might be Rob. So wasn't Rob at Starcross?
64.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Maybe you're General Pepper.
Oh, that'd be weird. Beatles music.
Hey, Mike.
Anyway,
Emotion.
I'm Mike.
Hey,
I'm the
Pepper.
rules guy and the Game War guy. And I guess it makes sense that I'm the peppy hair of the group.
No, a barrel
Even though-
roll.
Even though you're the youngest of us, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
But you act a lot more mature than us. So,
And
Well,
also, as far as magic goes, you are the wizened old sage.
yes, that's true.
did you used to fly a plane with Chewie's dad? Just say yes.
Well, both of our dads have oddly similar names and the same profession. So there's some strange similarities there.
Wait, was
man.
it your dad that also doesn't have a middle name?
No, he has a middle name.
Okay, never mind.
My dad does not have a middle name.
Ah, okay. Anyway, Dirk.
And I'm Dirk, the self-proclaimed greenest man alive and moral compass of the group. And I have no idea what these fools are talking about. Well, then, apparently I'm Slippy the Toad, who is...
Worthless.
Yep.
Hey,
Kind
You
of
give me health bars.
Like, I'll fly in front and you guys just sort of pick off the guys who are following me.
Slippy makes everybody feel better about themselves. A lot.
I do appreciate that you have to let him get captured to play through one of the routes.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, you might recognize that voice that's with us if you listen to Monday Night Magic or attend any of my streams, but if you don't do either of those things, then this is a mysterious voice from the past.
Spooky.
It's Bill.
Hi.
Yay!
I have to get
Yay.
that magical equilibrium of not swearing like Monday Night Magic and definitely not talking like we're on your Twitch stream playing Overwatch. That would not be acceptable.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Get on the
Hey,
what
Bill.
payload? No!
That's where I live.
So, as we remarked at the beginning of episode 500, which only at the beginning because we found out about it literally minutes before we started episode 500, there was a massive leak again regarding Dominaria that resulted in the official release of the Dominaria release notes, which covered all of the new mechanics and new stuff like that, and a lot of card-by-card rulings, which involved card text for roughly half the set.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's mostly the rare and mythic rare half. which is kind of terrible, but that's a thing that exists. Now, I don't think any of us have delved into the release notes too far, have we?
I read it, but I didn't really retain any of it.
I avoid it like the plague.
Okay.
I just know the bits of mechanic stuff that we talked about on Monday.
Yeah, I think because there were
the
no
things
pictures.
people have tweeted at me.
Yeah, sorry. I think because there were no pictures, that's why I didn't remember it very clearly after reading it once.
But did you just read the whole thing?
Yeah.
Holy crap, dude. It's like 52 pages.
What?
The actual release notes download was 52 pages long because it's the release notes. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the things that they linked at the bottom of that first thing. I clicked on the English one and I read it.
That would be the release notes.
Yeah, and I've got it open right in front of me so I could find the specific things that we're going to talk about. And yeah, I'm on page 6 out of 52.
Okay.
So Mike basically
Mike
skimmed it.
Mike just read 52 pages and forgot all of it. Nice.
This is more about
spoilers.
This is more about Mike than anything else.
Yeah, right. So yeah, just like on Monday Night Magic, I want to cover the one big rules change and a few templating things, and that's it. Because I hate spoilers. Like, I'm good with previews. I hate spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though they released even though they publicly and officially made the release notes available,
Published them.
there we go. They didn't want to, and they're only doing that because they felt like they had to. So, I'm not going to read them, but I do think there are some things on here that are very important. And after that, we're going to discuss how they handled this particular leak, and then we're going to look back at previous leaks to see what the hell. Because leaks have been a thing for a very long time, and they're really frustrating for those of us that don't want to be spoiled.
Yeah.
And
or want to find out about the cards. I want to say organically, like the way that Wizards wants to put them out there, because they put a lot of thought into how they're going to present them and do so with articles and commentary, that sort of stuff. Is that basically how you feel as well? Yeah. Okay.
So I know that people put a lot of effort and work into like crafting the way that they're going to reveal things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like, you wouldn't steal a car. So why would you pirate a movie? I don't pirate movies either. So I also don't read unofficial spoilers. And we never have covered unofficial spoilers on this show.
Because we don't want to give them any more quote-unquote airtime.
Exactly.
Than they already get. Not that we're going to, nobody's going to go, oh, I heard about this on the Mana Pool and then take it somewhere else. But we don't want to hear about it in the first place. Yeah. So we're just going to,
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out that Chewie will neither confirm nor deny whether he steals cars.
Anyway, so moving on.
Look, he's always got a different car when I see him in my area.
Anyway.
As Chewie's counsel, whether or not he wants me to be, I'll just say, let's keep this party moving. And no
comment on cars.
Yes.
So there's one big rule change that we've known about for a while. It's the Planeswalker Redirection Rule.
Mm-hmm.
They are doing away with that. So that's the thing where if you have a burn spell, let's say a lightning bolt, for instance, you can point the lightning bolt at a creature, right? You can point the lightning bolt at a face, but you can't point the lightning bolt at a planeswalker. You have to point it at, because it says creature or player on the card. So you have to point the lightning bolt at the opponent's face and say, redirect it to your planeswalker, just so that it fits within the framework of the rules, and so they don't have to add or planeswalker to every card ever printed ever.
Yeah, but there is a recognized tournament shortcut where if you say, Bolt Liliana, that's a sufficient short way of saying what you're actually doing.
But the way that it works, like within the nitty gritty of the rules, is you target the player and you redirect it to one of their planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this was basically a patch job, right?
Yeah, because they came out with planeswalkers in Lorwyn, which I don't have a calendar in front of me, but is what, at least 15 years into the game or so. I feel like that's about right.
Lorewood's release date was 07, so yeah.
Yeah, hey, look at that. Doing it without even really trying. Woohoo. So yeah, you don't want to go back in over 15 years say, okay, because they've done massive errata before, like the Great Creature type update, but that should very much be the exception and not the rule.
Yeah, but as the game has matured, like originally I think Planeswalkers were such an unknown quantity that they didn't want to do a massive rules overhaul.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't even sure that they would want cards that say something target Planeswalker on them.
Right.
Exactly. So they just made a new rule and said, look, this is so that there are ways to interact with Planeswalkers in every game.
Yeah.
Because, of course, creatures can attack them, but if you're not running creatures, they don't want Planeswalkers to just run the world.
Right.
Okay, you played a Garruk Wildspeaker. There's no way to interact with that. I lose.
Yeah.
So now there are ways to interact with it.
Because that could be a possibility if they had not had the foresight to, I almost said foresight. Woohoo! The foresight to allow already existing methods of damage to interact with it.
Exactly. So,
Yes.
Hey, Mike.
Yes,
Never mind. I get the feeling I'm the only one that has this open.
I think you are.
So, what they're doing is just removing the Planeswalker Redirection Rule and issuing the huge errata because Planeswalkers are here. They're here to stay.
Mhm.
This is really a change they should have done a long time ago.
Yeah, probably. By not doing it before, because as we said, they weren't sure if it was going to stick around. It's only gotten bigger and bigger. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, the way this will work now is abilities that read target creature or player have been changed to any target. That's nice and simple.
That's interesting because that sounds like something I would have seen out of a revised booster.
Yeah, they've kind of gone
yeah.
to simple again.
can I make any target suffer? Because I really want to make them suffer.
I get the feeling
Wasn't
it's a
that-
reference to something, but it's blanking.
There was a printing of Hurricane that says all players and flying creatures suffer X damage.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, that's the one that Gabe preferred to play with because it said suffer.
Because it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Do I take damage? No, you suffer damage.
So that's the first one. So Lightning Bolt now says deal 3 damage to any target. And of course...
But what about your lands? I want to target your lands.
Yeah, there are people who make that exact argument. And those people, stop it.
It's still not illegal. It can't target an illegal target. So
Exactly.
You
Any
can't
target...
deal lands damage.
Yeah, exactly. You can't lightning bolt my planes because it's just the planes.
no more than you could lightning bolt someone's deck.
Well, you
know?
can, but it doesn't do anything.
No, you can't.
What do you mean? So any target is understood to be
Oh,
creature, player, or
yeah.
planeswalker? Is that what you're saying?
Any target is understood to be any legal target. Right?
You
Where
can't
does-
legally target a
that what it
non-creature
says?
artifact with a lightning bolt, can you?
Well, I think
Judge?
the point that Mike's bringing up is that any does not define which of the many card types you can actually target just by itself, which is the confusion.
Oh, never mind. I see here. I did open it up. If a spell or ability calls for a target without any further description, that target may be a creature, player, or planeswalker. Okay, so it is strictly defined in the fine print.
Okay, so they covered their bases that way. So
Oh yeah, there are more bullets slightly further down. I hadn't gotten there yet.
So before you are out there trying to think of ways to make it work in a way it's not supposed to, nope, they already thought of that. Don't worry about it. Just go home.
See, the way I was reading this is any target, the word legal is just assumed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't target a thing with damage that can't take damage.
Just
There's
like you
nothing in the
can't.
rules that says that. I mean, usually the reason that can't be done is because the spell or ability is written such that it can only target, like it's specifically
creature
written
ability.
such that it can only target something that can actually take damage.
Well, of course, but this is a major rules overhaul. So
I know, yes.
they're probably going to work all that into the comp. I really feel bad for the people who have to rewrite all the comp rules for this.
Yeah.
Because you know they're going to miss something. somewhere.
Yeah, so
That's a lot of overtime.
What was that, Mike?
from what's
He's thinking.
they don't say it explicitly. Like they don't say yes, these other cards stop working this way. But like something like Earthquake, it's implied here that Earthquake can't damage Planeswalkers anymore.
Okay, well, let's move on.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. So, abilities that read target creature or player have been changed to any target, right? Got it.
Right.
Abilities that read target player, that's my in quotes voice. So, abilities that read target player have been changed to target player or Planeswalker, because that's what the Planeswalker Redirection Rule did.
Right.
So, they've just removed the rule and added the text. Boom. Easy, right?
Right. With you so far.
Now, there are some writers here about information, whatever, doesn't matter. Abilities that read target opponent have been changed to target opponent or Planeswalker, with the same exception listed above about... Okay, the exception is, however, if the amount of damage is calculated by using information about that player or objects they control, the ability remains unchanged and can now damage only the player. So if you say deal damage to target player equal to the number of creatures they control, apparently you can't redirect that to a Planeswalker. Well, you could before, right?
Oh, so like...
so this is a functional change.
So like sudden impact, deal damage to somebody equal to the number of cards in their hand.
Right. Planeswalkers don't have cards in their hand.
That's interesting because that actually does change. As you said, this is functional. This actually changes the way this works. Interesting.
It's also interesting because changing opponent to Planeswalker means you can actually hit your stuff.
Yeah, and now, so it says, abilities that read target opponent have been changed to target opponent or Planeswalker with the same exception listed above. So if it's target opponent based on the number of something, it can only hit an opponent. But it says, these spells and abilities that say target opponent, now say target opponent or Planeswalker, can target a Planeswalker you control, which is a major difference.
Because you can't target... Yeah, okay. Because originally I don't think they wanted you to be able to redirect to your own Planeswalker, because then you would just be like, I'm going to take a pain from my pain land and I'm going to send it to Jace, so...
Or I'm going to Earthquake for 20 and Garrick's going to eat it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Garrick.
Appreciate you, bro. And Garrick's like, traitor. But yeah, so this is different. Things that say target opponent or Planeswalker, you can now point at your own Planeswalker for some bizarre reason. I mean, I don't know why you ever would, but it's a thing you can do now.
I'm sure someone will find it.
Yeah.
There's probably an instant that does damage out there that you'll use in response to your Planeswalker being stolen. Like, there's going to be something.
Yeah.
So, the last one is, abilities that deal damage but don't call for a target haven't received errata. Abilities that deal damage but don't call for a target haven't received errata, with one exception, Vial Smasher the Fierce. And we looked up Vial Smasher on Monday Night Magic and we're like, I don't get it.
Because it's random, right? Or a random opponent or something?
Yeah. So it got some manner of errata, but we don't know what that means.
Like, we don't know what the errata is.
Yeah.
Is the problem.
Unless it's going to be a random opponent or Planeswalker, maybe?
Opponent or Planeswalker chosen at random, I guess.
It's probably going to boil down to, or Planeswalker you don't control, or something to keep it a similar functionality to what it was supposed to be. But
yeah, we don't know.
They didn't tell us what it is, so
yeah,
we don't know.
Apparently Vial Smasher was really, really supposed to be able to throw things at Planeswalkers, so it's crucial that she keeps that functionality for whatever reason.
I mean, I get the feeling that someone had a commander deck, and that's why she came up. I'm like, oh god, what about her? Do what?
Doesn't she exist because of Commander?
Yeah, I think she was a commander card, wasn't she?
Yeah, from the one with the partner commanders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So those are the big deals. That's the big thing. So some cards are gonna have a few differences in how they work, but that's what happens. So yeah, your sudden impact that was gonna kill that Liliana, well, sorry, I guess. But okay, so that's the big rules change. Now, there are some non-functional changes that we actually mentioned a couple of these at the beginning of the last episode. The first one is the phrase mana pool has been removed from card text. Boo!
No! Dun, dun, dun!
Now we're like those damage on the stat guys.
Yeah.
Magic is dead.
When they came for the damage on the stack guys, you said nothing, and now no one is there to stop them from coming for you.
So yeah, we don't get free publicity from Wizards anymore, starting with Dominaria. And like Brian was like, I don't know about this, and then he said it out loud, and he goes, I think I'm doing that already, aren't I? We're like, yeah you are, Brian.
I was like, but then I'm never going to say, tap, add a green to my mana pool. I'm just going to say, add a green. Oh. Like, that's what I already do. Never mind.
No, now is when you change it so that you specifically say to your mana pool, just for the plug.
Exactly.
Then you're going to be one of those old guys that's, like, oh, look, I've been playing longer than you, and I have these antiquated phrases, and
hell yeah, batches and series.
Yeah, like the game needs the concept of the mana pool for the detailed rules to work, but you don't need to use those words on every card because there's no other place for mana to go.
Yeah. I mean, basic lands have been replaced with just a symbol.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, something crazy like Upwelling, or something that adds mana that, doesn't empty from the pool for this turn or something like that. We'll still need to mention the mana pool to make it clear how it works, but it's not necessary just for normal mana-making abilities.
Exactly. So, hey, look, you know what? We made it 10 years with free publicity. It's fine, sure. And an important thing to note about all of these, most of these, is that it saves real estate on the card. It reduces text on the card. Reducing text on the card makes things easier to understand and leaves more room for sweet stuff like flavor text.
Sweet, sweet flavor text.
Or protection from demons and dragons.
I hate you.
That'll never come up, Mike. I don't know what you're talking about. That would never shape a format for 2 years.
Ever. Until the Titans are printed. So...
And then become horribly, terribly obsolete.
Oh, poor Baneslayer. We hated her so much, and then we missed her so much.
Yeah. At least she died to Doomblade.
At least they died to Doomblade.
So yeah, the next thing is Brian tried real hard to segue into.
Hey, that was one of my better attempts.
It was pretty good. You know how on cards it'll say, target player reveals his or her hand, and then, or target player shuffles his or her library. It's just pointless. And I think I brought this up a long time ago. I was like, why does it still say his or her? And Magic has finally decided, you know what, we're done with that. They're gonna just use they.
Yes.
Target player reveals their hand. Target player shuffles their library. Boom. Easy. Removes a few characters, especially when you have to do it several times on a card. That was annoying. Target player chooses a permanent he or she controls. They then shuffle that permanent. No, he or she then shuffles that permanent back into his or her library and then draws 6 cards.
She will draw.
Yeah, he or she draws 6 cards into his or her hand and then goes home and punches his or her husband or wife. It's just, no, just stop.
I don't like that card.
That card sucks.
Can I make somebody give me his or her drink?
Yeah.
I think you have to pay for it. They had like some errata for that.
Yeah, so the thing now, they're just using they. Third person singular. Anyone complaining about that for any reason, you're wrong, shut up. Okay? Okay. Any reason. Like, they're like...
If you really don't, if you're one of those who said, oh, that's not proper English grammar. I mean, that usage of they okay, so in English, that usage of they is well documented going back like over 600 years. So I'm pretty sure it is part of English now.
Yeah, to the 1500s is what people have dug up. So it's fine. And if you listen to Monday Night Magic, I apologize for the repetition, but if you're one of those people who thinks that Wizards is pushing politics into a children's card game because this might possibly have the glorious side effect of making a group of people feel more welcome, then you can go to hell.
I agree.
How dare you? Representation is not a worthy goal. For shame. I already see myself in the cards. Why do I need to see anybody else?
Yeah, exactly.
Brian says as he holds up Liliana of the Veil.
Yeah. It's like looking into a mirror.
somebody get the olive oil. So, yes. This, first and foremost, this saves real estate on the card. Again, especially for those times when you have to say he or her, or he or she or his or her multiple times on a card. And it has the bonus side effect of being more inclusive to the non-binary people out there.
Yep.
And seriously, if you have a problem with that, kindly piss off. Thank you. Now.
Computer pasta.
I don't believe they put that on.
What?
So on Monday Night Magic, in the midst of all of our rambling about what these people can do, I suggested that they go behind their computer and they find the delicious, delicious computer pasta, connecting it to the wall, and then eat it. And so we ended up calling the episode
Premature Hype and the Delicious Computer Pasta.
Oh, I was wondering about where that part of the title.
And you had said on Twitter, hey, we got the phrase delicious computer pasta on the main page of the website.
Because Wizards just posted the title, and so I screen capped it, and that's now pinned forever.
Yes. So, there's that. Okay, next up. Abilities that modify how a spell behaves on the stack refer to themselves as this spell, rather than using the card name. So,
which feels like how they do it in play testing anyway.
It is. They use the actual term like card name in play testing and in rulings and whatnot.
Yeah.
What was the example I used? Because I didn't want to use
a card with a ridiculously long name or something.
No. It's just there was an example of a card. What's a card that references itself? Oh, Invigorate, because we were talking about that for some reason recently. Invigorate says, crap. Now I got to look it up again. Gatherer. So I want to read it directly. Invig. Alright. Okay, it says, if you control a forest, rather than pay Invigorate's mana cost, you may have an opponent gain 3 life. Target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. So, after Dominaria, this will say, if you control a forest, rather than pay this spell's mana cost, you may have an opponent gain 3 life. Which, with Invigorate, that's roughly the same amount of space, but for cards with more than one word name, this will be brilliant. And save real estate.
And if they start using that convention in other places, I mean, when I go read stuff about Magic on the internet, I'm actually usually looking at places where people go to ask rules questions. Because sometimes I just, I'll take a break at work and I'll go read rules questions and answer them sometimes if someone hasn't already taken care of it. Very often, cards that happen to use their own name in their text, when there's certain types of effect, can confuse readers into thinking they do something or have some effect on other cards with the same name.
Right.
When they
don't. Kamal, for example, is a legendary creature that has an iteration in red, and there's another version of him in green. There are certainly characters that have even more than 2 versions of themselves, but he was one where you actually had 2 versions of him, one in one block and one in the very next block. So if one had an ability that says, pay a green, Kamal gets +1/+1 until end of turn, there might be some confusion among players as far as, wait a minute, doesn't this give both of my Kamals or either of my Kamals or something like that +1/+1,
Yeah, well, okay. So to use an example of something that actually exists, like
you gotta be picky.
That came out only sort of how I did.
No, it's okay. You're actually going to use a card that reference. It's fine. Go ahead.
But like something like, pay 1 in a green, Basking Root Wall gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
There you go.
It's just that one. It's not the other Basking Root Walls that you have also on the battlefield at the same time. Not something like that. If it was meant to do something like that, it would use weird text like what Silly and Sunsinger says. But I think, Chewie, you were about to say they're not changing that on cards like that, but I'm saying if they can start using this convention in other places after introducing it here, I think that'd also be helpful.
Yeah, what I was going to say was this doesn't say they're doing that, but I don't know why they wouldn't.
Maybe they're just trying it out. Maybe they're starting small.
Yeah, like I typed in the term sacrifice into Gatherer and just I'm looking at the first page.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of these, like Abandoned Outpost is the first card. Abandoned Outpost enters the battlefield tapped. Why not just say this card enters the battlefield tapped?
Yeah. Or even just say this land enters battlefield tapped.
Sure.
If you don't want to use the word card on something.
Yeah, like
If you want
Aberoth.
weird example.
Cumulative upkeep. Put a -1/-1 counter on this card or this creature. Why would you have to spell the name out again? There are just a lot of places where if they do spread this out throughout the rest of Magic, it would take up so much less space, dude.
So if you have it handy or feel like looking it up, Jaya Ballard Task Mage has 3 abilities on it and incredibly small text. The shorthand version, the second one has discard a card, Jaya Ballard Task Mage deals 3 damage, blah, blah, blah. The third ability just says discard a card, Jaya Ballard deals 6 damage. They don't include the Task Mage the second time.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, they do that for some legends. If the name has to be used more than once in the text, the second time and beyond is a shortened version.
I've never noticed that before.
They've already acknowledged that there's a need to do that, so it seems inevitable that once they open that door, they're going to run through it.
So reminder, they have not said they're doing this on permanence yet, just how spells behave on the stack, okay? But if they were, Jaya Ballard's middle ability would say, 1 a red, tap, discard a card, : this card, this Planeswalker, something.
Or maybe this.
Or maybe just this, deals 3 damage to any target.
I don't know. For a legendary creature, they might say Jaya deals 3 damage to any target.
Okay, that's true. Or even just Jaya Ballard deals 3 damage to any target.
Mm-hmm.
That just feels good.
It feels better than always having to qualify them with their titles and all that nonsense that they do right now, because legendary creatures get long title card names, especially if they're the second version of that character.
Yeah.
Sadly, she still has a creature dealt damage this way can't be regenerated this turn, but, you know, that's because it was a callback to an old card.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Incinerate?
That's the one, yeah. And then finally, the last non-functional change is they're bringing back the separator bar between rules text and flavor text that they did back in Portal, which I didn't know this until we read it on Monday Night Magic, and I was like, whoa!
Mm-hmm.
Because that was always just a nice little aesthetic touch.
I like it.
Yeah, and since Portal was meant to teach people, they didn't want to distract the player by introducing something in the flavor text that would confuse them about how the card worked, which definitely happened to me and Gabe many times when we were just starting the game.
And I
read something in the flavor text and be like, "Oh, well, obviously it works this way."
And I do think it's just good for clarification purposes. So should just read a little.
It doesn't matter for entrenched players like us, but it does matter for beginners a lot.
Right. For me, I'm like, okay, sure.
And it looks pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. And with us saving all these little bits of real estate on cards here, and here, with these new templating things, having a bar there, will just room for it now.
Mm-hmm.
Dig it. But okay, so that's that. That's all we're going to talk about from Dominaria, well, until we get to this new thing, which we might as well just go ahead and do now. Hey, Dirk.
Yes, sir.
Did you open that link?
I have.
All right, well, just scroll down to the bottom and tell us what the hell. Dirk has not seen this card yet. That's why we're getting him to do it.
Yeah.
That's a very weird card.
That's a fair response.
So, Phyrexian Scriptures for 2 and 2 black as the saga. So it's an enchantment saga, and it's mythic. And it has a reminder text. As the saga enters, and after your draw step. As the saga enters, and after your draw step.
That's interesting. I didn't realize it didn't include the words "the battlefield." It just says "enters." Probably for space reasons. So, okay, go ahead.
And after your draw step, add a lore counter. Sacrifice after the third one. So the first step is put a +1/+1 counter on top to 1 to. Up, okay.
I was going to say, the formatting on this card has completely thrown Dirk's brain.
Yeah, it's really...
What is this? I don't even.
For whatever reason, I think the Phyrexian symbol made me look at it as a different spelling. But anyway.
I didn't even see that before!
You didn't see that, man?
Oh, dude, that's cool!
Look, in your defense, Karn didn't see the Phyrexians either until it was too late.
That's a good point.
Oh, topical.
Okay, anyway, keep going, Dirt.
So put a +1/+1 counter on up to one target creature. That creature becomes an artifact in addition to its other types. Step 2, destroy all non-artifact creatures. Step 3, exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards.
So, tell us what this card looks like, Dirk.
It almost looks like it's a full art, or in terms of what it looks like, the extra cards that come in like a pack. If you've got a two-sided card, it's what it sort of looks like. Is
like a checklist card?
Yeah, almost like a checklist card, almost, except it's got art on. Like it's in two columns. One column has the text, and the other column has the picture, and so it looks sort of like a checklist on the one side, and then it's got like art on the other side. But yeah, it's really weird.
That is actually, that's a good point.
And the art seems to be a neat reference to the Urza Saga Dark Ritual.
Complete with the mask there, the symbol for Yawgmoth. Yeah. So, and obviously I think we're going to see more than one saga. I have not read the release notes. Chewie and I were talking about whether or not this might be part of a cycle or if there's going to be more or less. But you don't make a new subtype for one card.
Well, and a new card configuration.
Right. So I wonder if these sagas are going to be, unless the Phyrexians are alive and well on Dominaria, which is kind of, I don't know how I feel about that. I wonder if the sagas are going to be more like callbacks to like important figures from Dominaria's past. But it's kind of interesting, and I like there's some synergy here that it builds upon itself. So the first step is, yes, you buff something up, but also very importantly, the +1/+1 counter is also a way to basically remember, okay, this thing is an artifact. Second step is destroy everything that isn't an artifact, all creatures that aren't artifacts. And then the third step is exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards. And you might think that that's kind of the odd one out, but you just literally blew up the world. Now those cards aren't coming back.
Like, this is the Phyrexians' plan, right? This is what they do.
Yeah, that's what they do.
They show up, they infect things, they destroy everything else, and then they remove all trace of it.
And there's no going back, yeah.
Yeah. So
you are complete brilliant. At that point. Why would you want to go back? You have been made whole. Praise the father of machines.
Yeah. Completed.
So yeah.
Oh, that's what happened to Clues.
A lot of people have been complaining about this because it's the internet, and that's what people do.
What is there to complain about? They just don't like the...
Because it's different, Brian, and different is bad, Brian. Different is bad. I'm afraid of bad.
I mean, it's technically true that, compared to any other card, it looks weird. But that's only because this is the only time you've ever seen it. That's why it looks
weird.
The
first saga.
Yeah, this is and I love that this is the first thing that they decided to officially show us. They're like, check this crap out. Word. And then they're like, all right, no questions, please. No questions. Come back in a couple weeks. Yeah. And everyone was like,
that last email you send when you're about to go on vacation.
Yeah, but I was gonna wait. I did see on Twitter someone asking if after your draw step was going to be a new templating thing, and it's not. It's just shorthand that they're using in the reminder text.
At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase.
Yeah.
I do find that it's interesting. My brain inserted enters the battlefield, but they don't really have room for that. Yeah. So, and what I think is important to note here is that first part is all reminder text.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be like Rule Z.
Yeah, but that to me tells me that all the sagas are going to have 3 steps. So
probably.
I mean, it doesn't guarantee it. But I mean,
that's true. Reminder text can.
It doesn't say after the last
one.
We
thought that with the Planeswalkers too, that they were all going to have three parts to them.
But that was just based off of our initial impressions.
Well, Brian, you're making an assumption. Rules text. Rules text can change.
Rules text can say whatever.
I mean, not rules. Reminder text can change. Like think of. Oh God, I had an example. It just fell off. Cascade. Oh. Is it Cascade? No. Damn it. I had an example, and as soon as I had started the sentence, it just evaporated from my brain, where the reminder text adapts based on what the card says or does.
Yeah, even reminder text for the same keyword ability might be different from card to card if one of them happens to work in an unusual way.
New in different ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was me
So
making...
sacrifice after 3 could mean anything. It could mean all of them have 3. It could just be a reminder, sacrifice it after you've gotten to the last step.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's me making an assumption, and I have a teachable moment. So,
But it's also possible that Brian's completely right and they all have 3. We're just pointing out we don't know that.
absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
do we think this is a strong card? I mean, it's cool,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I can see why it's meant.
Damnation.
I mean, even without that last part, and even without really even getting into that first part, it's basically a wrath with a delay counter on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you save it's a one-shot Oblivion Stone, right?
Yeah,
Like
Yes,
this is
it
safe, and then everything else is boned.
yeah.
I mean, this is pretty much the one-sided wrath for your artifact deck.
Also that, yeah.
Yeah.
But they know it's coming, so they have to either stop committing to the board, which is a good template play for you, or they do, in which case you get more value out of it.
And because you're setting up at least one of your things to survive, it's kind of hard for them to not commit to the board, but anything they commit to the board is going to get wiped out. So it's a dilemma. And let's not forget about the fact that this is based off having this card alone. If you're playing an artifact creature deck, then it gets even better.
Then comedy ensues.
Yeah, because that second ability doesn't confine itself to the thing that you made before. It's all non-artifact creatures. So
yeah.
interesting to note if your opponent happens to be playing artifact creatures, they're not going to mind it as much. Go ahead, Mike.
And I was about to say, and the first ability, I mean, it seems like a pretty clear callback to Ashnod's Transmogrant, but unlike that, it can target something that's already an artifact creature. It doesn't have to be a non-artifact creature that you target.
No, that's true.
Right. So if you just want to if you've got a Pentavus and you just want to throw another counter on there, then go right ahead.
Which is a very good idea.
Well, you're welcome. Now you have to pay me 10 cents every time you do it.
Ha! You can tell Brian's old school because he said Pentavus and not like the new thing.
Triska,
Walking Ballista.
Walking Ballista, that's the one.
Oh. Yeah, what's
We're
that?
old school. We're old school on this show. But anyway, yeah, like I said, people are complaining because of the different thing, but...
There's one other thing to note about it that actually makes it in some ways better than a normal Wrath, and that's the fact that it's usually problematic that you spend your turn blowing everything up and they get to rebuild first. But because this triggers after your draw step, you get to build first with all of your mana.
Dude!
That's what good.
Very good point. Very good point. I don't think I'd seen that. Good job, Bill.
Yeah, and like I was talking to Cap late one night after this was shown, and he's like, it just kind of sucks that it doesn't do anything when you first play it. And I was like, yeah, it does. Because I thought that too. And then I read it like 3 more times and I went, oh wait, it says as this enters. So you totally get the first effect when you play it, which is sweet.
Even if you don't, even if it doesn't make it to your end step, it's still basically a sorcery tacked on to an enchantment. So
yeah. And don't forget, it is an enchantment, so a Naturalize will blow it up, and they don't have to worry about it, so, you know.
And also open the vaults will bring it back.
Which is hilarious.
Just saying there are synergies there. So
yeah, so that's enough time on the one card, but it's a saga. It's really cool. It's got the cool new frame because they wanted something like sagas.
It stands out.
Yeah, it stands out totally.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. And I literally did not see the Phyrexian symbol watermark until Dirk pointed it out. I just didn't, like, at all. And that's really cool.
Yeah. And I guess they could have, for the people complaining about the layout, I guess they could have laid this out like a level up card, but then they wouldn't be able to do cool stuff with the art.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone mocked up, somebody who hates it mocked up what it would look like in normal card frame, and yeah, it fits perfectly. It works fine because the amount of art and text space is roughly the same. It's just shaped differently. Yeah, but so what?
I also
this piece of art would not fit at all.
Well, then if they were going to do it that way, he did. Lots of people said that to him, and his response was always, "Yeah, but if they were going to make it look like a normal card, they wouldn't have commissioned this art like this. Which
I
is
get that, but then they wouldn't have been able to commission new and unusual art.
Exactly.
The point is that it's different.
And different is bad. Wait.
Well, quite frankly, especially for this one, I don't know how many of the others will involve Phyrexians, but having something kind of different and disturbing can only add to the flavor of the card.
Yes, that's a good point for the Phyrexians.
Phyrexians don't do things the way you want them to. They're supposed to.
They're supposed. Dicks.
Well, yeah. I mean, how would you feel if you were hauled off and your biology was altered and it's kind of like being abducted by the Borg, I assumed. It's not supposed to be like, hey, what happened to Bob today? Oh, Phyrexians took him. I think he's still good to meet us for beer later.
You don't want to meet him for beer later.
Yeah, you just don't. Trust us on this.
Well, the one thing I really like, that I do really enjoy about this format, is that how it's talking about lore counters. Well, you can actually just take a counter and just work your way down the list. Just put a counter on the first one, say, yeah, I did the first one, done. And then take a counter and move it down to number 2.
Yeah.
I did that one, and then get down to 3. And once you get down to 3, you have to sacrifice it.
Yeah, so, and I think that's one of the reasons they did it that way as well, to have it on the side like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know how they would have formatted it if they had done it the other way, because it would have.
I mean, you could do a bullet point type thing, but I think Dirk's exactly right. I could see them doing a little punch out counter like they did in Amonkhet. And no, seriously, and you put it on the card, and then you move it down to the 2, so everybody remembers where it is. So that because they're all about making things clear. And when you look at the card, you don't have to ask, now, was this on 2? Did you already get that effect? No, it's on 2 because we did it and the counter's on 2,
Or yeah, if you're just you're putting the counters on it. Well, you cover up 1. Okay, second counter goes on 2. Done. Yeah. This is the ability that's going to be left. 3. Okay, all of them are covered up. All right.
Or just take 1 and slide it down as you go along.
What happens if you proliferate?
Then you
will have to read the actual rules.
Yeah, then the full rules would explain.
Well, I'm saying
but I'm pretty sure it would just move to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it would too, but that's the thing. Like, if you're adding a counter, that's the only thing you can think of where it would.
Now, what if you were to
removing a counter?
What if you remove a counter? Could you get one of these effects more than once?
Yeah, we'll have to read the rules.
We'll have to see the rules, but it's like that's the only reason I can think of that they would say add a counter instead of move.
But. Yeah. Well, and that way it also doesn't, like, you could use dice. You don't have to use a particular counter in a particular way, as long as you're remembering how many counters are on it. So, but if this is the taste of this. What?
Sorry, I was trying to find the mock-up that this guy did, because Vorthos Mike retweeted it with a response, and people are using the Phyrexian Scriptures art as their phone background, and it looks freaking sick!
Oh, man.
I believe that.
So, one other thing, just while we're talking about this, I think it's possible that part of the reason they did it this way on top of everything else is that because this has something that's going to be triggering at the start of your turn, having a completely unique card design for it makes it easier to just quickly glance over the table and be like, yeah, I have to do that. As opposed to, is that a Planeswalker? Is that a level up card? Is that a Saga? Like,
I mean, is that just a random enchantment?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that have split into 3 sections running across it in a normal card frame that for something rare and special, I could see them being like, and then we did this thing once, and that's fine.
Oh, there actually is a bullet point that covers the question that came up earlier. If counters are removed from a saga, the appropriate chapter abilities will trigger again when the saga receives lore counters. Removing lore counters won't cause a previous chapter ability to trigger.
But you can get one more than once.
That's interesting that they calls them chapter abilities instead of just triggered abilities or anything generic like that. These are chapter abilities. I wonder if that means that the sagas are all going to be some kind of tome or
like the example in the release notes is something called the History of Benalia.
Oh yeah, I saw people tweeting about that name.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there'll be like Urza's bathroom reading.
I do
like
not
a
want to read
magazine.
what that dude reads on the John. I'm just saying.
Bad joke.
That dude had issues. Anyway,
So wow, we spent a lot of time on this, but I think come next week we'll have more to talk about. So this is kind of a good way to lay the groundwork.
yeah, and the really cool thing is that we get to record the day that they're going to start. So yay!
Yay.
We'll have plenty to talk about next week. I can almost guarantee what next week's show will be about. I'm just saying.
I have a good feeling that we you know. So Mythic Inscription, everybody good for Mythic Inscription, right?
I
Right?
hate you.
Right.
I hate you 3 times.
Dishonor my cow. Mm.
Yeah. Oh, I love that movie. So, this was, again, leaked. So on last Thursday, as far as we can tell, I don't know if they've said this straight up, but it looks like the Chinese Magic site went to post the release notes for Masters 25. Oopsie poopsie. They put up the release notes for Dominaria, and once something gets put on the internet, it gets copied and downloaded and saved and everything a million times. And so removing it, even if they removed it 5 minutes later, doesn't matter. It's too late.
Toothpaste, tube, you get it.
What? Oh, putting two. Got it.
Yeah. Or my favorite phrase for stuff like that is you can't unring the bell.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
It's very insightful.
Ah, here it is. I found it. Finally. Can I copy image address? Here you go. This is what the mock-up looks like. See, it works fine. It's just not, it doesn't pop, and I think that's what they wanted.
The boxes are a little crowded.
Yeah, and it
Well,
doesn't.
this is a mock-up that the home dude did at
Yeah.
home. And
I know.
it looks like the art on this might be slightly too big to illustrate, like he might have made it slightly too big to illustrate his point. I'm not entirely sure. But
yeah, I mean, it's as good as you're gonna get with that.
It's functional, but it doesn't pop. And Bill pointed out all the reasons you would want to be able to glance down and just notice it. And
yeah,
everything about this mock-up is not that.
right.
No, I don't think he overly zoomed in on the art.
No? Okay.
He just made it snap to the sides.
That's full width.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be okay. That might be it. But anyway. So yeah, it would work the other way, but they didn't do it that way, so shut up. Like, really. This is happening. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. Meh. Change is bad. I don't like different. Different is bad. Shut up. So, like I said, so this was a leak. It went out, and I'm gonna let you guys talk about what happened.
Okay. So,
so Blake's post on the 8th.
Okay, so Blake posted the article on the 8th. Do we have a link to that?
Oh,
and we
thought you guys had that open.
And to their credit, they went right out ahead of this. It's something that we will come to in a little bit that somebody else talked about later was Wizards kind of has a couple different responses to leaks. And one of them is to basically pretend like it didn't happen because they really don't want to give any credit to anyone else for releasing their stuff ahead of schedule, ahead of what they wanted to do.
And also, if they responded to every rumor out there, then people might start playing games with just making up stuff and seeing whether they confirm it or deny it.
Right. So I definitely give them a lot of props. Blake came out with this article. He said, as many of you might know, it's going around, and he said it's real, straight up. Because they've had issues before with people testing the waters, and somebody puts a card out there, and everybody's like, that can't be real, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. He's like, it's real, and no, we didn't want to get out there to this that soon, so they he said, here's the steps we're going to do. First of all, here is the translated versions of the release notes. Just boom. That way, inaccurate translations are not making the rounds. One of the reasons this is important is, someone looks at the Chinese, tries to translate it, some of these cards, doesn't do a very good job, and then some of those cards end up looking way too strong, and some of them look just terrible, and the cards are really how you sell the set.
Or the explanation of the new rules don't make sense.
Right. So if you're looking at these cards and these new rules and you're like, wow, these cards are terrible, or, oh, these new rules don't make any sense, by the time Wizards gets around to correcting it, some people have already checked out and they're not going to buy the product, and that's bad for Wizards. So they put out the release notes, and then on Monday they said they would release the mechanics article by Matt Tabak, go ahead and saying, as we see at the beginning of previous season for every new set, all right, here's the mechanics you're going to see, usually with a card illustration, and here's how it kind of works with a little paragraph or two on each one. Tuesday, we'll release some preview articles that were already written because some of them, are already, our authors have been working on them for a little while to get them ready to give context to the cards, because some of the cards that you see in the release notes, people are like, ooh, that's awesome, but they don't have a sense of the greater story behind them. They made a point of saying they weren't releasing the full card image gallery because they know that a lot of people get into the art, and that's a big part of it for them. So they want to still hold off on that. And then something about a super secret project that they still haven't given us any indication to. So, as well as some other things, talking about story, and the story was already set to premiere on Wednesday, as in yesterday, this week, the 14th. And, that's all good. So that was the announcement on Thursday, kind of getting out in front of this, saying it sucks, but here's how we're going to do this. And that was all we heard about that going into the weekend.
Yeah.
And
that was a snap call. I don't think they had very much time to put much thought into ramifications and whatnot.
I'm sure somebody called a meeting and said, okay, what are we doing? I don't believe this was Blake just kind of brainstorming by himself. But but at the same time, no, I don't believe it was something where they really felt they had the time to explore a whole lot. They just said, all right, this stinks. What do we have on hand? What can we give them on hand? How much do we want to hold back? And this was what they came up with. So that was kind of the plan. And then didn't hear anything. And then Monday comes around, and this is my little gripe, and I'm going to try not to let it color too much. But, I'm going to be honest, because I do feel like a lot of times I come across as, oh, Wizards can do no wrong. Every card is awesome. This is great. This I actually have a bit of a gripe with. So if you're like me, you read this article, and you're like, wow, that kind of sucks. But I get a little bit of an early look into the set. So you're coming around, and it's coming up on 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and you're refreshing your page, and there's nothing there. And you're like, okay, well, maybe it's a bit early. And also keep in mind, this is the Monday after daylight savings time begins. So you're like, maybe they're not quite up on that. They're a company, but, there's nothing. And eventually, if you're like me, I don't know if this was up at 11 or not, but I clicked because the only articles on the main page were dealing with the 2 Grand Prix over the weekend. If you clicked on the See More Articles link, or I don't know if that's the exact word for it, it's something like the full RSS feed or articles home, something like that. There was an article from Mr. Forsyth addressing this, and this is one that we all should have a link to because the saga was at the bottom of this.
And that's really weird because when someone mentioned this somewhere and I went, huh? Mm-hmm. I found it on the main page just on the front. So I don't know what was up with your browser or what, but it was just there for me.
Main page still X, kind of funny, I think.
Yeah.
I bookmarked the archive.
How long have we been doing this?
And not funny, haha.
How long have we had this format now? It's been a couple months, right?
Yeah, just a few.
So, I mean, they're still working on it. But so they had some time over the weekend to kind of assess the reaction. And he says here, we released a statement that outlined how we're going to handle it. However, and when I read the word however, my heart sank just a little bit because I was looking forward to the mechanics article, if I'm being completely honest. Not to mention it was a lot of snow that day, and I was stuck inside with my daughter. Not that I don't want to be stuck inside with my daughter, but again, this was like the highlight of my day. So I'm reading However, and I'm like, man, don't do that to me. So after some careful thought and feedback from the community, we're going to go a slightly different direction than previously.
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck in the house with my daughter. Damn you, light of my life. I love you forever. Get out of my face.
We're stuck in the house, having a great time with my daughter, and I'm like, I'm going to get to read Dominaria starts today. And keep in mind, Dominaria previews were not supposed to start for a while. Dominaria the pre-release is like mid-April. So I was expecting previews beginning of April. So I realized this is still ahead of time. But man, when you say, hey, next week on Monday, you're going to get chocolate, and you thought you might get that chocolate for Easter, but you're just going to go and get it now, you're not going to be like, no, save that for Easter. I'm going to like, give me the chocolate. And then you don't hear anything all weekend, and you wake up and you're like, where's my chocolate? And they're like, yeah, we'll give it to you later. You're like,
So I'm an adult. I want my chocolate.
I want my chocolate. But Chewie and I talked about this a while ago, and the guys will tell you that my initial reaction wrote that morning was very much like not happy. I've calmed down a little bit, but I'm still a little like, I feel like when you tell people you're going to do something. Yeah. But anyway, so it does say that they got a lot of response, and they even say the response was kind of surprising. A lot of people were excited about the set, but they also heard of a lot of people who were saddened by the information and trying to avoid the release notes until full official images were shown, which I actually completely agree with. One of the reasons I haven't read the release notes is because I want to see the images of the cards. But so because they wanted to avoid putting out too much out there, they kind of scaled it back, and they're really going to start everything off this coming Wednesday, March 21st. And this was the other thing that I had a bit of a gripe with. Okay, so you said we were going to get the mechanics article. I'm not too worried about the previews, but the mechanics article was the thing. On Monday, you're putting off for a week and a half. Okay, but then they also pushed back the first Dominaria story article, which had nothing to next Wednesday, and it had nothing to do with the leak. And I'm also kind of like, And the reason for that is probably, look, next Wednesday is basically Dominaria Day. Dominaria for everybody. You get a Dominaria and you get a Dominaria, and I get that. But as someone that loves the story, and you've been waiting for a while since the last installment of Rivals of Ixalan to get back to it, it's a little bit like, hey, here's this I'm not going to use the chocolate thing again, but basically, here, wait a week. And I'm like, because I'm already down, I don't even get to get the stuff on Wednesday. But I recognize nobody wanted the leak, and everybody was just trying to do their best. And they realized on Monday, well, look, if we stick to what we said we would do, a lot of people are still going to be very unhappy. Let's just go ahead and do what we feel like we should have done all along. Here's the new schedule. I get that. Still, in my opinion, pretty tough when you say, this is what happened, here's what we're going to do about it, and then later you then change that on the day that things were supposed to go into effect. It's a bit rough, and I'm still just a little peeved, but not like, I've never did I say, oh, I'm not going to be interested, or the game is ending, or anything like that. But it's kind of a rough week. What do you guys think?
Game's going to end.
Well, everybody, we had a good run. We made it to 25. We're gonna
yeah, we got to 500. Now we have
to
stop all. We just got to bottle this up and say bye, guys. Sorry.
I think we can give some of those empty
Game's
boxes
terrible now.
Toys R Us and just pack up.
So, I definitely think it's preferable, and I think most of us can agree. It's preferable to change your mind to a better idea rather than just follow through on the first thing you said if it wasn't as good. And I'm the type of person who I like to let things breathe and to have space in between stuff. And I do appreciate things happening at their proper times.
Mm-hmm. when they're intended to be.
I'm not the type of person who says, "Give me my Easter chocolate now." I'm just not.
That's because I used to take his Easter chocolate. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that was crap. And so, and I really can't. I don't like leak situations because they end up stealing so much focus and thunder from what's going on right now.
Yeah, like
even when things are done on
25.
purpose. Even when things are done on purpose, like we've all said multiple times on this show, what the heck were they thinking when they said, "Oh yeah, we're going back to Ravnica" before Avacyn Restored was even released?
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah. And that was something they did on purpose.
Yeah, I'm saying. So, Brian, when you mentioned, why did they push back the story article? I'm saying thank you for pushing back the story article, because when they obviously over the weekend they stopped and thought, you know what, we really don't like things that steal thunder and steal focus. That's why we don't like weeks. That's why we don't like leagues. So why are we planning to do this by releasing the mechanics article and multiple preview articles all in a big dump when we're trying to trying to stick to a schedule, and this set is still so far away? Let's not do that. Then, I don't know this, but this is the impression I get when I think about it. Then they stopped and thought, wait a minute, why were we planning on doing that to ourselves with the schedule we had set up with this other stuff? With doing this story article before Masters 25 is even on sale. And
now that we're reevaluating,
So I'm saying, yes, thank you. And give everyone a chance to finish experiencing or even start experiencing this thing that you've been building up for the last several weeks.
Yeah.
And then we can start moving on to the next thing. I have never liked how they like to get the next hype train rolling for the next set before the one we're talking about right now has even hit the street. I have never liked that.
Because then that gives you the feeling of almost like, well, how much do I even want to get invested in this thing going on right now?
Yeah, and that's why we say only half jokingly, only 20% jokingly. We mentioned the never-ending preview season.
Yeah.
And I personally do feel the enthusiasm fatigue. It's like, I don't care. I don't give a damn. And when something is spoiled when something is given away at an improper time or spoiled way too early, even on purpose, and that makes me think of Iconic Masters. When they did that blind pre-release for Iconic Masters.
And then released the whole set later, was like, oh, by the way, here's
like the next day. I mean, there was already enough information from that event where the whole set was, we knew what the whole set was. And then immediately, when I was seeing the whole set, unfortunately, it was also just the way the set was designed and put together. I could look at the whole set and say, wow, this actually isn't very interesting.
And then it was another 2 months or so before
a long time. And when it came out, I was like, oh, I'd already decided I don't care.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Can we get to Ixalan already? Or whatever the next. Yeah.
The actual release of it was like a footnote on Monday Night Matt. Oh, by the way, you remember that set that they talked about so long ago? It came out, if anyone cares. And nobody cared.
Yeah.
I think the only response, I agree actually with most of what Mike said. I think the only thing I'll say about the story and about why they might have originally planned to do it this week is because even with with Masters 25 coming out on Friday, Masters 25 doesn't have an overarching story. It's just
it's strictly reprints. There's no story.
And
have they been? I thought they were supposed to be. Sorry to interrupt, but I thought they were supposed to be releasing other interview and podcast stuff in the in-between weeks when they haven't been doing anything. But was there any content last week? I don't remember that being
there really wasn't. And I think it while they do a lot of those in the in-between weeks, I think they just didn't have any on the schedule.
I mean, so they haven't even been using that space in between to fill it with the stuff they said they planned to fill it with. I mean, there's plenty of other artists they could interview. There's plenty of other people in R&D they could talk to.
Yeah, but so
they're wasting that space.
But my thought here before I completely, and I think that's good, but before I completely lose my track of thought, because that will happen, is because Masters 25 is more of a blank slate in terms of story. And in fact, if you actually looked at where the story would have been this week, there was an article about some of the tie-ins to Dominaria, the plane in Masters 25. having the story there might have been very intentional as far as, oh, hey, here's this plane we haven't been to for a while, and things are getting ready to get kicked up there. And Masters 25 is coming out, and it has Kavu. It has some of the interesting stuff that you've seen that you might remember from last time, or if you weren't in the story at that time, here's kind of how they come into play. So I think I'm with
agreed.
you.
That would have made sense. Agreed.
And they may have said, in this period of, well, we really need to reevaluate. This has caught everybody unawares, and we made this announcement, but now we think it might not be the best idea. And maybe if you're going to bite the bullet, go ahead and do it. If I can say the one thing that might have made me feel a whole lot better about this, I still wouldn't have felt great, was that if there was a tweet or something on Sunday just saying, hey, if you're looking forward to seeing this stuff on Monday, we've decided it's going to get pushed back a little. Because again, a lot of my issue, I'm not speaking for all players. I'm not speaking for all readers. A lot of my issue was Thursday, hey, you can expect this on Monday. And Monday, when you're literally logging in to see it, it's like, never mind. It's like you're tuning in to see the season finale of insert your show here, and they're like, we interrupt this to bring you something you don't care about, and it will be airing a week and a half from now. Please enjoy the state of the
but with that analogy, they were showing the season finale before the previous episode aired,
but you still told them you were going to show it.
Before the previous episode
is where
it doesn't sound as intelligent to move when you explain it like that. Maybe the analogy is collapsing here.
Perhaps. And I never said I was good at analogies. But I think this is the point at which we're simply going to reach an impasse, because this is something that mattered to me on an emotional level that I don't know that I can adequately explain. I think I've explained as much as I can, and I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. So suffice to say that they made a decision. I didn't like what they did, but I understand it, and it was a tough position for everybody all around. Next. And see, I saw that in my mind. Mike in the comments referred to a penny arcade joke, and I literally had that in my mind when we're talking about analogies. But, because a shark has to keep swimming, right, or it dies. Isn't that the old wives' tale? If a shark stops swimming, doesn't it die? So
it has to keep moving.
Keep making the analogy. Yep.
Yeah.
So I got to keep rambling, but so please.
I'll tell you what, Brian.
Yes.
You've beaten this horse tremendously. So if you come back on Monday, I will give you a new horse to beat.
Will it be made of chocolate? Because
maybe. You'll have to come in on Monday and find out.
Mm-hmm.
Put it on your calendar.
It's crammed like 3 memes in there. So.
Oh my God. So,
but anyway, so I don't want to take it. This is not supposed to be the Brian Complains show.
It's too late. So does anyone else have any opinion whatsoever about how they handled this? Like, you guys? Because when I saw the thing, again, we were setting up for episode 500. Mm-hmm. I spent the entire pre-show getting the 2 scenes on OBS set up so that everything would go off without a hitch.
Like the whole time.
The whole time. Like, I was like, guys, everybody sit in your camera where I need you to be so that I can resize this. Okay, thank you. And that's just all I did the entire pre-show. So someone mentioned that in the Twitch chat, and I'm like, what? And I clicked on it, skimmed over it real quick, and I went, well, piss. And I went right back to work. Like, it was pretty much it. Yeah. And so I didn't really have a thought about it.
Yes.
Like, I was like, that sucks. Oh, well, damn it. I'm busy. I don't have time to process it. Right. And then on Monday, I sort of kind of skimmed over Forsyth's article and went, oh, okay. And it didn't even occur to me that, like, what I'd read. And then I saw Brian send out the email where he just rambled about how much it sucked. And I'm like...
For a good ways, yeah.
And I'm like, what is he talking about?
This is what's wrong with the world and kids these days. And Forsyth.
So, like, I have no opinion other than... I think I'm on Mike's side of this wasn't supposed to happen anyway, so they're making it not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it as candy. I saw it as like you're moving up your freaking dentist appointment. Cuz like it's a thing you have to go through. That's how I see a preview season anymore. It's a thing you have to do.
You see preview season as a person running a drill through your skull?
Sort of, yeah. Because, I mean, it makes it easier. We're going to get meta for a minute. It makes it easier to decide what we're going to talk about on the Mana Pool. Because believe it or not, listeners, after 10 years, sometimes you go, I don't know.
Sometimes.
When's the next pre-release? Oh, that's right. What are we doing?
Well, nowadays the next pre-release is before the launch.
Yeah. So, like, it gives us a breathing room to where we have a thing to talk about for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
And then we can pick back up with creative stuff. But then on other times, we really want to do this other stuff, and we're like, damn it, we can't, because it's freaking previews. And if we don't do previews, our listeners will revolt. So, I mean, they probably wouldn't these days. But still, you know.
And I guess that, again, that's a personal response to it, whereas...
Exactly. And I have had this enthusiasm fatigue for... I've been making the never-ending preview season joke for like 5 years now.
At least,
Mine's not even 20% joking. Mine's like 85% not joking. Like, like I'm dead serious that never-ending preview season is killing me.
And
but,
if I'm being... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, shut up, Brian. But, so that's me. Like, they're like, okay, you remember this preview season? Well, here it is again. And I'm like, come on. Like, the other set hasn't come out yet. And then they're like, okay, just kidding. You don't have to go to the dentist early, but you do still have to go to the dentist at your regularly scheduled time. And I know it's good for me and it's a thing I have to do. I just don't want to do it yet. So that was like, it wasn't candy for me. It was the after effects of candy.
Oh.
Now, my opinions on the upcoming preview season are definitely different. And I'm going to go ahead and say this here for those that don't follow on Twitter. Blake Rasmussen, I hope that's how you say his last name, has said, we're getting a preview card. Oh, yes! Like, he said that on Twitter.
Yeah. So it's on the internet, so...
It's on the internet, so it has to be true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% true.
Just like Monday, right? Just kidding. Just kidding.
Exactly.
Just kidding. So...
But anyway, so there,
and, you know, so
hidden amongst all this negativity, there's a little shining bright of light, a spot of light.
And see, so that goes to everybody's subjective opinions toward it. Whereas I got to admit, with some of the Master sets, like Masters 25, even I was hyped to see some of the cards. And we said, hey, this is looking sick. But do I get the same thrill of it as I do with a brand new set? I don't.
No.
And when it comes to Dominaria, I'm going to be completely honest. Without even seeing very much of the set, just I am highly anticipating this, so I think that's a factor as well. Whereas I'm still definitely on the candy train. Nom 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 nom.
Oh, so yeah, like I'm super excited to see it. Yeah. I just want them to do it right, and hopefully that's what we're going to see now.
And I will say, having gotten through this week and through Monday and all that, now that that's all behind me, you know, I certainly hope that this comes out the best way possible, because I definitely. I don't like it when leaks happen. I don't. And in fact, on that note, how has Wizards responded to leaks in the past? How, you know, is this atypical? How often does this happen? And have those responses been good or bad or eh?
So there is a link, dear listeners, in the show notes to the MTG Gamepedia wiki. Now, Gamepedia wikis are sort of hit and miss, but...
Yeah.
But this is the one that's maintained by the MTG Salvation users, right?
I have no idea. Not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
I just did a search for MTG leak history, and I found this, and I went, oh, "This is brilliant."
I mean that image, that logo that they have for the MTG Wiki, that's the one that they use on the MTG Salvation site.
Fair enough.
MTG Wiki, so I think it's the one maintained by that community.
If you say, again, doesn't matter. The point is the content, and not the location.
This is pretty close. I can think of at least one leak that.
I was just saying this is maintained by a bunch of people who
care,
not just by some neckbeard. You know,
well,
I mean, they might have a neckbeard.
This is a collective of neckbeards.
Yeah,
yeah. There we go.
Yes, this is as close as you're going to get to a pretty good list. I can see at least I can think of at least one leak that's not on here, but for the most part, I think this is a pretty good list. So
really,
it was very small. The one that I thought of that was on here was, if you remember, the set before Return to Ravnica, which would have
Avacyn Restored.
Avacyn Restored. Yes, somebody found either in that set or in the core set that was immediately after it, somebody found a couple copies of like Rootbound Defenses, which kind of spoiled the populate mechanic. Populate mechanic. Mm-hmm. It was a very minor thing, and some people even said, hey, was this really done not on purpose, or was this a sly way of saying, hey,
we talked about that while you were on the phone in the pre-show, I think. I said it was a white card that gave indestructible and did a thing.
Yeah,
and someone found it in a booster
pack,
and that was the name of it. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I had to step away, listener, so I actually didn't realize you guys talked about. But that's the only. But otherwise, I see everything here, and there's a lot of these that I recognize, and then there's some that I had forgotten about, or I don't know that I knew some of these at all, because Wizards does not always acknowledge that this happens. So.
Yeah, so the noteworthy leaks here on this page, I just realized these aren't in order.
Really?
Aren't they?
Okay, they might be in order of...
straight up, Odyssey followed by Invasion. Yeah, that's
they're in order of when they happen.
When they happened,
but not when the sets
were.
Yeah, this first one doesn't have a date. That's why I was confused. So yeah, apparently this was before my time coming back to Magic, but it says some Odyssey cards were leaked. A user on the MTG News forum posted a blurry, zoomed-in image of some cards. People didn't believe him because they were Odyssey cards and had that tombstone icon up in the corner, and people thought that it looked ridiculous and there's no way it was real.
I missed that.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
It was helpful.
Bring back Tombstone. Hashtag dig up the stone. Anyway.
Hashtag Gravedigger.
So, yeah, it says he would later post that he got caught. Whoops.
Well, yeah, that was what happens.
In Invasion, in September of 2000, a foil print sheet of Invasion was auctioned off on eBay. The auction included a photo of the sheet, which included a then-new split card and provoked a lengthy discussion. Like I said, I didn't come back until, like, Judgment was out and Onslaught was the next set, so I did not know about this.
I remember seeing photos of that online.
And again, if you're Wizards and you're seeing that, and this was the first time they did split cards. These were the original split cards, right? You have got to be like,
just
pissed.
livid. Yeah.
And they purposely didn't tell people about them. And like on Mark Rosewater on his Drive to Work podcast has mentioned a couple times that he fought for keeping it a surprise, and he was actually like really happy to watch people during the pre-release like open a booster pack and look at it and like turn their head sideways.
Yep. Which is a problem we always had. You could always tell when someone was holding a split card because they
Yeah, it's not easy to
and then they would like get this excited look on their face and like tap on the shoulder of the person next to him. It's like, dude.
Okay.
So yeah, that's got to be brutal if you're Wizards. Be like, oh my god. But again, this is back in Invasion in 2000, and as big as the internet was, it wasn't every day.
No, it was not nearly what it is now. So
that's fine. Then in Judgment, 6 weeks before the release of Judgment, the entirety of the set was accidentally made public through Magic Online and then publicized on MTG News, which is
because Magic Online was fairly new. I think the first set to go on Magic Online was
Invasion. Right?
Invasion.
Yeah.
So this is the end of the second block. So they're still working at the kinks, and this is
Never mind. Keep going.
And this, I think, was one of the things that if they weren't doing it at the time, certainly they were doing it for a long while after that, where the set would be released in paper at least 2 weeks before it was made available on Magic Online. And then that became a week, and then now it's actually simultaneous.
I thought it was like a month originally.
I say at least 2
Magic
weeks.
Online, it was like 3 weeks later, and that was only like in a Strahd era. They didn't really start closing the gap until fairly recently.
It's been, and now it's apparently, I think, isn't it Masters 25 out now?
Yeah, Masters 25 was released first.
Yeah, partially to deal with, hey, look, you just got this, but really Masters 25, hey, please buy it. So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Although last fall they released the actual like standard set on Magic Online before.
Yes.
They did the pre-release. So
yeah. But that was all kind of what we while all this was about the time that I was getting started, right around there, and about the time that Chewie was coming back, there's a bit of a gap here, at least between noteworthy leaks.
Yeah. So go ahead.
And there were little things here and there all over the place, like
Which I think,
like something that I remember. I think before this Odyssey one would have happened. Like I remember being on a rumor site and trying to look up stuff about Prophecy, which was the next set coming out at the time. And I remember this distinctly. Someone was describing a card, the cost, the alternative cost, the rules text that didn't show up in Prophecy, but the second I saw Disrupting Shoal in Betrayers of Kamigawa, I remembered that was exactly the card that we're describing. So this might have been another person who was stealing information from R&D or from a printing plant or something.
Huh. Could be. But I think the next one they have listed here is Time Spiral. And I'm...
wait a minute. The Judgment link, it says... Now, the reference link isn't working anymore, unfortunately, because the Wizards website has overhauled several times, and a lot of stuff is just gone now.
Yeah.
Or at least it's gone now with the links that worked before. It might still be there, but not at this location. But it says this incident, the Judgment League, Magic Online, this incident prompted a response from Wizards restating their policy of not commenting on leaks, which amazes me because this was on Magic Online. How do you not comment on something that you screwed up? It's not like some dude was like, here.
Yeah, they had this long-standing policy, and they just said we're going to stick to it, even though we were the ones that accidentally cocked this up.
Is this like the policy that comes up in every action movie that is the United States does not negotiate with terrorists, where everybody kind of just knows it's the policy? So, FYI, I'm a lawyer, and I don't really actually know if that's a policy.
Well, policy isn't a legal thing necessarily, so we're fine.
True.
So yeah, then in 2005, with Time Spiral, good old Rancored Elf, and anyone who knows about early Magic leaks knows all about Rancored Elf, posted an image of 3 Time Spiral playtest cards on MTG Salvation 9 months before the set was released. This leak led to legal action against him and 10 John Doe defendants, which was settled out of court.
Yeah.
I completely forgot that was that long ago.
Because that incident made it clear that someone had actually stolen intellectual property from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, because Rancored Elf was always the source of a leak or two on some Salvation forums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
always.
The point that I was going to make in regards to this was that this is a list of the noteworthy leaks, but you have to keep in mind, especially if you were playing at the time, that every set, some of the cards would be up early, and Rancored Elf was just infamous for somehow getting some of these and putting them on the forums. And part of the issue with that, even if you were like, hey, look, early cards, is a lot of times they weren't legible or correct. Like something about them was not correct, which makes me wonder with this whole thing with the playtest cards, if they weren't cards that later ended up getting changed, if they weren't just incorrect from the beginning.
I remember specifically one card before we went to a pre-release. We saw online somewhere, oh my god, look at this card. I can't remember what it was, but it was busted and we were amazed that they printed it.
Yeah.
And then we got it, someone opened it in a pack, and there was a line of text there that made it not overpowered anymore.
Yeah, I remember this.
So while this was basically the thing that really kind of brought down Rancored Elf, just because we haven't mentioned him prior to this, he was in a lot of these. And if it wasn't him, there were other people leaking cards fairly regularly. I mean, the way that things are now, obviously, with the release notes, that's terrible. But I feel like you don't see a lot of the same, day in, day out kind of leaks that we used to. So
yeah, there were always a few cards, and this is the reason that I don't pay attention to unofficial spoilers, is because so many of them were just inaccurate back in the day that I just learned to not look at them anymore. I really wish I could remember specifics about this one card. It was some creature that was completely busted, but it had on it like some sort of something that brought it back down, like it sacrificed it at end of turn, or something that made it, oh, well, that's totally fair.
Yeah, I don't remember. There was some kind of like ball lightning-y type creature, but it was missing that critical clause that justified its ridiculous stats.
Yeah, and that could be it.
Anyway.
But anyway.
It was like Blazing Firecat or something. I don't know.
Maybe?
No, that would have been too early.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was
Time Spiral.
That was Time Spiral. We got, and these were playtest cards. These weren't just card text. He put images of playtest cards, and only like Wizards employees have that. So
yeah.
So okay, then we flash forward another 3 years to Conflux, and I do remember this.
This one was rough.
Yes,
yeah.
This one was infamous.
The entire list of cards was found in a Japanese database and published on MTG Salvation. Now, just the names.
Just the names.
Yeah.
So all of the card names were known before the release of Shards.
Yeah. And the big thing here, as I recall, was people found out about a card named Nicol Bolas Planeswalker, and everyone lost their freaking minds.
Yep.
Because, headliner, and we didn't know what it did. We didn't know how it necessarily tied into the story, but we had our first, while lately it feels like we're like, oh, look, Nicol Bolas here, there, and everywhere. This was a really, really big deal and spoiled a whole lot. So
in the story at the time, was it? Did we think he was dead?
I don't
think we didn't know what happened to him after the ending.
Yeah.
After what was the future site? He left. He said that he had prepared something in the eventuality of losing his powers, like what was happening during the mending, but we hadn't seen him since then.
Okay, I got confused.
So we're like, oh shoot, Planeswalkers were fairly new. Conflux was only the second set of the Alara block, which
we didn't see him at all in Lorwyn or Shadowmoor, which was all that we'd seen. We'd seen Future Sight, of course, and then Lorwyn, Shadowmoor, and he wasn't there at all.
And the only Planeswalkers we had seen so far were from Lorwyn, and then we didn't have any in the rest of Lorwyn block or Shadowmoor block. It was just the first 5.
Yes.
And then we had a handful in Shards of Alara. Ajani, Vengeant, and some of the others.
Which hadn't come out yet.
Which hadn't even come out yet. So, hey, Planeswalker's brand new type. You're not going to see him all the time. It's amazing. And oh, by the way, Nicol Bolas. Yeah. And people were like, holy crap. And even just the name was enough that it being out there. Well, it's like we talked about with some of these things where it's like, who cares about this now? Does it have Nicol Bolas? No? Then,
yeah.
I don't care.
So go ahead.
Well, I distinctly remember that I didn't know who Nicol Bolas was because I started playing during Time Spiral block, and that was kind of a lot to catch up on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. How did I
say that. I played using Animal's old cards from, like, Mirrodin. I didn't know anything about the Magic metaplot until I started talking to Mike.
We'll do it.
Yeah, and like you guys already had a show at this point because your show's that old.
We did. We were going.
And, yeah, you could probably find your old episode on this if you really wanted to dig. But I remember that it was just this thing where the list pops up and it's like Nicol Bolas Planeswalker, and I'm like, I've heard that name before. And I'm over here getting all like excited because we thought that Sarkhan Vol was super busted because he made dragon tokens. And stuff. And everyone else is like, I don't care, Nicol Bolas. And I'm like, okay, fine.
Oh, when they previewed Sarkhan Vol, I was like, this is going to be a 4 of in every deck forever. That's a side note. I'm good at side notes. Let's keep moving.
There are multiple ways that people can be spoiled when stuff like this happens. There are the story people who want to read the story and not know what happens until they read it and then know what happens, and seeing some of these give stuff like that away, which we'll get to in a few minutes, including names like Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. There are card people who, you show them what cards do, and now they're thinking about, metagames and whatnot. There are mechanics, just all kinds of stuff related to actually playing the card game that you can be spoiled. And then there are just general hype, which is what we've been focusing on for the most part of, oh my god, look at this next thing, so this next thing, so the first next thing doesn't matter as much.
Yeah. But any of these are ways that stuff can get spoiled, so.
Yeah, so the Conflux one was kind of rough because of all the card names. Nicol Bolas Planeswalker was a big, like, ding, 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 what?
But at least we didn't know what the cards did,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, so then, flash forward another 3 years. Wow, these seem to have a fairly regular occurrence here. Damn, that's eerie. With New Phyrexia. Because
this is the one that...
This was Guillaume Gate.
Yeah, this is the one that, man, if you think it's bad now with the release notes...
Yeah. New Phyrexia. So, New Phyrexia, there was a big thing going on where Wizards was like, is it going to be Mirrored and Pure? Or is it going to be New Phyrexia? And we had actual, like, set symbols and everything. They released the Pristine Talisman promo that had the Mirrored and Pure logo on it. Mm-hmm. Remember that? Like, no one knew.
Yeah. They even showed art for they even showed, like, mock-ups of the packaging for each set.
Yeah.
To try and make the players question which side's
like
going to
really
win.
Sweet Darksteel Angel that never got printed.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. Now, I don't remember if they told us or not. I think we knew by the time the set was this leak happened.
Yeah. They had even gone so far as to trademark New Phyrexia and Mirrored and Pure, so, the diehards wouldn't be able to tell which it was. But I agree.
Before they registered the name Mirrored and Besieged to throw people off even more.
But I agree with you.
That's funny.
I do think at the time that Guillaume Gate happened, they had announced very recently before, but they had announced, Phyrexians win, it's New Phyrexia.
Yeah. So I don't think it completely ruined everything they were working towards from that end.
No, but
this was bad. So this was Guillaume Gate. Guillaume Matignon, who is still a pro player, was given the God Book, which is the entire set, because he was a writer for Lotus Noir magazine. And because of the way print works, they have to get that stuff out to print early so that by the time the article or whatever comes out, it's not, 3 months later.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the way it works. But he showed it to another well-known player, Guillaume Wafotapa, who at the time was a big deal. Like, he was the control player's control player. Like, he could do things with blue mana that would make even clues go, damn, that's good.
Yeah.
And Matignon shared it with Wafotapa to be like, hey, what do you think of this part of what I'm going to write? Or something like that was what they said later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then somehow from there, I don't remember the specifics and it doesn't say here, it just sort of spread to another person. Now it's on the internet. The entire set.
He basically tried to share it in like an open room. And then when somebody was like, hey, is this legit? He tried to play, as I recall, he tried to play it off as like, oh no, it's just a joke. But they were like, no, this looks really legit. Let me just share this with everyone I've ever known. And it snowballed. Yeah,
and like we said earlier, once it's on the internet, it's out there forever.
And we're not talking about names at this point. We're talking about card for card.
Yep. And
so what was the response for New Phyrexia?
Wizards went, crap. Here is a week of previews in the entire set. Boom.
Yeah.
And you get a suspension.
And I think I think they just kind of released the set almost without comment. They were just like they did a week when it normally would have been like 2 weeks, and just without comment, they're like, here's the set. And to me, it almost felt like that because they didn't really want to comment on it. It was almost kind of like, wait, what?
They commented on it.
But it didn't feel very extensive, and it was basically just an info dump. This is, I think, what people were afraid of happening with Dominaria was just too much too quickly. But this is like the ultimate example of that, because it was literally like, here's every card. Okay.
So yeah, it says here, I mean, there's an article, that one actually still works. That we regret to report that the New Phyrexia spoilers posted prior to April 25th were done so without authorization of Wizards of the Coast, and we know who did it, and these guys did it, and they apologized, and they broke our trust. What a bunch of dicks, whatever. And,
yeah.
Yeah, Guillaume Matignon came clean. He's like, this was me. I'm very sorry. This was not supposed to happen, but I'm the one that screwed up. So that's good. But it says, when we learn of things that harm the integrity of the game, he's been suspended for 3 years, and the other 3 got until October 2012. When was this? So 18 months. Matignon's was shortened, so he didn't do the full 3 years.
Yeah, you got time off for good behavior.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's how that works.
But, okay, wait.
I remember there also being, some controversy and discussion about, they gave a pro player far advanced knowledge of the set. Yes, he needed it because he was writing a print article to promote the set, but still.
Yeah, that
pro player
felt
was
bad.
given far advanced knowledge of a set and shared it with another pro player.
That's a very that cast
fair.
Yeah. So
now,
not
never
only
mind the fact that this is just the way things worked, but this is the first time it had come to light and been obvious.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it definitely makes the public feel like, hey,
Oh, okay, here we go. There's another post here, reference link to a Gathering Magic article, and they said, this time Wizards acted. They released the entire spoiler on the first day of preview week. Okay, so it was the first day. They were like, and this was written at the same time. This was written, that week. So yeah, they dropped the entire set, and they still had a preview week, but the whole set was already out. And I remember not bothering to read preview articles because it's right there.
Yeah.
Because the preview articles were already written before with things like, and then come back tomorrow for something else. You're like, okay.
But
like,
yeah, they
all
also
of these things where they couldn't actually write like you would when everyone knows it by connecting all the good cards together because they would not have been previewed yet.
Exactly. And they canceled all of the exclusive previews that they handed out to everyone because there's literally no point.
Mm.
So this really sucked. Like this sucked. This was terrible. And lots of people were calling for the Guillaume's heads, and we talked about it on an episode or so way back. Feel free to go track that down. But
I think this is probably one of the worst single leaks in history.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So then, fast forward another 4 years to Oath of the Gatewatch, when 3 cards from Oath of the Gatewatch were leaked. What?
Dun dun dun.
But the big part of that is the colorless mana symbol.
Yeah, they showed the colorless mana symbol, and one of them was just Kozilek.
Yeah,
one of them was Kozilek, one of them was Wastes, and I can't remember what the third one was.
And people are like, is this the 6th color? Are they finally doing it? Because there was no explanation as far as what it was, right? So
yeah, no explanation at all.
Because they weren't intended to be released that way.
Okay, let's see. That was November 18th. Okay, so a month later, Trick Jarrett posted an article called Why Leaks Hurt. And again, we've talked about this because the show had been going for a long time at this point. And he explained in this article what was so terrible about leaks from Wizards' perspective and from the perspective of various players and whatnot. Because at the time, Kozilek was not there yet. It was just Ulamog. So this is a story thing. And then the colorless mana symbol came out of nowhere. Yeah. Nobody expected this. And then here's some pictures. You figure it out. And people got mad. Like, that they were doing it because it's change and change is bad. We made this joke earlier. But this was changed with no explanation. It's just,
without someone holding your hand and saying, no, here's how it works. It'll be okay.
Well, yeah, because it's just, all it is a symbol. You don't know what it means.
Yeah, and the only reason they hadn't tried to introduce it in Battle for Zendikar was because they didn't have anything to do with it mechanically, like they did in Oath of the Gatewatch.
So, this was bad. Not as bad as Phyrexia, but this was bad because of the effect it had on the community. Because, again, people fear change, and Wizards couldn't, like Bill said, Wizards wasn't there going, no, it's fine. It's like someone just calls and goes, hey, your dad's in the hospital, and hangs up. You're like, what the hell? And then it turns out your dad's in the hospital dropping off the neighbor who he heroically rescued. Like,
So
or your dad's at the hospital, volunteering at the cafeteria.
Right? Yeah. Delivering
this
flowers.
This is the one that got Prilliman sent to prison, right?
This is the one, yeah. A subsequent investigation led to DCI suspensions for the members of a private Facebook group, which was accused of participating in leaks over the course of multiple releases. And this was where these Southeastern judges just got a blanket ban. There's like, you're all banned. And a bunch of them were like, why did I just get an email saying I was banned? Because this was just a Facebook chat with like dozens of people in it.
Yes.
That just happened to get posted there. And this was part of the beginning of a bunch of the tension between the judges and Wizards that came up later, because Wizards didn't stop and think. Like, the DCI just went, nope, you're all out. And
it was
like,
heavily reactionary to something that they didn't have all the information on.
Exactly. And this is the genesis of the Brian Prilliman being a criminal joke, because... well,
Yeah, for the curious, he's not actually a criminal. He's just really old.
And he was unlucky enough to be a part of this Facebook group because
this isn't Logan's Run, it's not a crime.
It was like not yet anyway. It was like I can't remember the specifics. Wasn't this like a judges or a rules thing? Facebook group?
Yeah, it was a Southeast Judges Facebook group.
Okay, and some jackass who was in there got a hold of these images and just dropped them in there, which led to Wizards immediately, or the DCI, immediately just banning everyone in that group without stopping and asking first.
Yeah, and even looking at the banned players list, and all the people who showed up on it that day, you could tell that Wizards knew it was really only two people, because like two people had 2 or 3 year suspensions, and then all of the rest of the people who showed up on the list that day were like 2 or 3 months. So you could tell the Wizards knew it was only a couple people who were really doing it, but they decided to basically, nuke the planet from orbit just to be sure.
Yeah, and it blew up in their faces and led to a huge backlash because what the hell?
And on top of that, these judges, may have already bought plane tickets and hotel rooms for events they were going to judge at, and now they couldn't.
Yeah, events that were going to happen like in a couple weeks.
Yeah, like suddenly these places were short-staffed, and the people who were going to staff them had invested money that was now kind of dead. So like there were no winners in this.
Yeah, not at all. So it says less than a month later, Wizards retracted the suspension of 10 of the 12 players involved on appeal and announced a new policy of explicitly stating the beginning of each spoiler season to improve awareness of unofficial leaks. So,
yeah, that's right, because some people were speculating, wait, is this just a sly from Wizards?
Yeah.
Because they were like really nice, big, high-resolution images.
Yeah.
So that was another big one that had massive backlash. It spoiled story. It spoiled a new mechanic that had no explanation, or not a new mechanic, a new thing that had no explanation and was just terrible and led to this horrible cluster mess of judge bannings. Then we flash forward another year, not even a year, another 4 months to Shadows over Innistrad, when several cards from Shadows over Innistrad, including one complete booster pack, were leaked. I don't remember this at all.
I don't remember this either.
Oh, I totally remember this.
They got put up on eBay.
I'm wondering if mostly because of our policy of not acknowledging these, I remain blissfully ignorant.
Yeah,
So, but I'm with you, Chewie. I don't remember this one.
Yeah, I know, but it says
I
the
do.
leak.
People were asking if we were going to talk about it.
Oh, it says the leak revealed the named most of the named mechanics in the set, included the checklist card. Ooh.
It was the Mythic checklist card, too.
Thus providing mini card names and eliminating the possibility of several reprints. Flavor text and artwork indicate the involvement of Jace, Nahiri, Sorin, and Tamio in the story.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, someone in Europe, that might not be right, got their hands on, it was an English booster pack, I think, and opened it up and put it up on eBay, and someone reported them, and the auction got taken down before it completed.
Well, that's good.
But again, it was the internet, so it was out there.
I do remember that now.
Yeah, some of the significant things to understand here is that the checklist cards have the names of obviously all of the cards that are going to transform. In the case of that set, they had one of them that was for rares and mythics and one that was for like commons and uncommons. So we got a list of essentially similar to before when it's like Nicol Planeswalker is coming. Like we found out a lot of stuff. And on top of that, we got, artwork from the promos and stuff in it, because around this point in time, like immediately after Oath of the Gatewatch, was when Wizards was like, we're not going to put every story Planeswalker on a card in every set. So learning which ones were getting cards was actually significant, even if we knew they were doing something in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And this was released, the set came out in April. This spoiler happened in February. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, moving on. Eternal Masters, this was MTG Deep Throat. I remember this. MTG Deep Throat on Twitter accused two to three unnamed vendors of possession of the card list for Eternal Masters and insider trading. Wizards issued a statement announcing the investigation into those accusations, emphasized they do not provide preferential treatment to any vendor, distributor, or retailer, nor do they disclose detailed card set information prior to preview season. A statement about the Eternal Masters card
i.e.
list.
we don't do Godbook type stuff,
with resellers. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that. And then it says, on February 17th, MTG Deep Throat rescinded their original accusation, instead stating that the evidence for their original claim was fabricated, promising to pursue legal action against its creator. Shortly after they made that statement, the account was deleted. Nice.
Some jackass lied to me. I'm going to go beat him up.
But wait a minute.
But they're the one that
Eternal
made
Masters list wasn't actually out early?
Maybe.
Who knows?
I don't remember hearing those.
Who knows
early.
whether or not it was out early, but what this person was saying was that some specific vendors had it somehow and were using it for shady stuff.
Yeah.
But then they said, well, whoever told me that lied, I'm going to go get him.
Yeah. Of course, it makes you wonder, did this, because the account was deleted, were they just not saying it to get a rise out of people,
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
I had completely...
The fact that they deleted the account really makes me wonder.
Maybe this was someone who just really despised Star City and wanted to start a nasty rumor.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I found it on the web archive. They tweeted, there is no Eternal Masters list R&D test cards out there in the wild. I was lied to by spiteful vendor about this with fake screenshots. Yeah, because it seems like this person was like actually giving out some cards at some point because people were like, oh my god, did you see this? I'm like, I don't believe anything this jackass says. And then of course, some of the things this jackass said were true.
Mm-hmm.
But,
But, with something like Eternal Masters, it's probably easy to make. There are some guesses that are really easy to make.
That's a good point. And then the last one on... No, they're... Good lord. Amonkhet had Dusk to Dawn really leaked 6 weeks before the official spoiler started. I remember this too. Mm-hmm. It was the Aftermath card, which was the really bizarre split card, and it was said to be pulled from a Modern Masters 2017 box. Huh.
Yeah, so this is something similar to the Return to Ravnica card Brian mentioned earlier, and a Gate Crash card that we didn't mention earlier that showed up in some other booster.
Right.
Yeah, and it seems like that one, like there were two in a row, so it would have been Return to Ravnica.
That also happened with one of the Battle for Zendikar sets.
So wait a minute. There were two in a row. One was like found in a booster. The other one was found in a booster of the previous set. And then there was another card that was like found in a parking lot.
I remember that.
Yeah, and we were like, sure it was. So... but I can't. That might have been the Battle for Zendikar one.
Okay.
Well, I think that when it came to the two that were from the Return to Ravnica block, the problem was that, if you remember, Return to Ravnica sold ridiculously well. Like, it was one of those rare sets where packs were worth more open than closed for a while. And so they ran through their whole first print run, and then they ran through a second print run, and they were just scrambling and pulling together all the resources they could to keep the product out. So it sort of became this issue of they were jumping between different things too quickly. So, a problem normally happens, a pack gets 16 cards in it. But when you're swapping between sets like that so frequently, they end up in other sets.
Yeah. So that was Amonkhet. A complete Ixalan rare foil print sheet was leaked 3 months before the pre-release.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember that. This was followed by the reveal of all basic lands. Guess what? All 5 of them are in the set.
Yeah, Mountain's still winning.
Those basic lands were said to be found in an Hour of Devastation box, sure, and an accidental reveal of the promos on the official WPN website. I do remember that.
Remember that. Yeah.
And yeah, the Ixalan Rare print sheet, I definitely remember.
I thought it was fake because of the text on that blue-black kidnapper, whatever. pirate.
Hang on. The hostage taker.
Hostage taker. I thought it was fake because the text on hostage taker allowed for an infinite loop.
Ah.
But then remember they said, yeah, sorry, we're issuing this errata for it.
Okay. But a thing that this wiki doesn't say, they released these cards at the beginning of preview season.
Yeah.
So this was a post from August 28th of 2017. A few months ago, photos of an uncut sheet of an unreleased set were plastered all over the internet. And they went through how it ended up online and how Wizards responded, what this means for the Ixalan preview season, and they were like, here are just all the cards that were on that set, that were on that sheet. Here, sorry, enjoy, have a party. And we went over all these on this show, because here they are, so why not?
Yep. Candy.
Yeah, this had the the Burning Sun's avatar.
Yeah.
And the Verdant Sun's avatar. Did it have all 3?
And I don't think it had all 3.
I don't think it had all 3.
It had Jace with the legendary Planeswalker type line.
No?
What? Oh,
yeah.
It was visible on the sheet.
Yes.
His whole card text wasn't visible on the sheet. That's why they didn't release it in that run.
Oh, okay.
They released everything where you could see the whole card.
Gotcha.
But Jace's type line was visible on the photos.
Ah, okay, cool. Well, there you go then. So yeah, Wizards they've had a lot of weird leaks happening in every possible way.
Yeah.
And then with Dominaria, Wizards of the Coast's Chinese page posted the release notes for Dominaria, and this time they were like, oh, fine, rather than let what happened in Oath of the Gatewatch happen again, we're just gonna just here.
We're gonna get out in front of it.
Yeah. And then as we discussed at length earlier, they backpedaled on just how far ahead of it they were going to get.
Right.
But they did release... Damn it, I almost said it. They did publish the full release notes.
They did that, and then even though they did push things back a little further, at the beginning of this week, they did say, well, here's a little something to whet your appetite with the scriptures. So...
Yep.
So by the time we record again, we will have a lot more to talk about, even without going over the release notes.
Yeah, which I'm still not gonna.
I'm not gonna do it. And let me be clear, I don't think ill of anyone that does. They put it out there. If you want to look at it, go right ahead. This is just something I just don't care to do. But, go nuts. So...
Yeah, I mean, as always, if you're the type of person that can't wait and goes to MTG Salvation before every new set to eat up all of the delicious unofficial spoilers, good for you. That's just not what we do.
Right.
Because we were put off of that a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
By incorrect and incomplete and just fake.
We're old fogies
unofficial spoilers.
And we stick by our antiquated roots.
Oh, and looking at the release notes again. So I did read the first sections about, new rules and mechanics and templating conventions and stuff. And I started reading the individual card notes, but then I did the thing that I do with pretty much every set of release notes. And after I got through a couple, I was like, oh my God, I don't care. And then I stopped reading it.
I did not read 50 pages of
So you thought you did, and then you didn't.
Yeah, because the problem is that basically they put up everything that ends up getting a Gatherer Rulings note.
Pretty much,
including, and, 60% of those cards are going to be stuff that people like me and you already understand how they work and don't need an explanation. So yeah, I did the thing where I'm like, oh my God, I don't care. And I stopped reading.
Well, it's good to know that you didn't make it through 52 pages and not notice.
And it's also good that when we get to the actual previews that you'll
have something to say.
You'll have a fresh take.
Right.
So
So, I get the feeling that Dirk has dozed off. So, hey, Dirk, you still awake?
I am.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. So, do we have anything else to say about the history of the notable leaks anyway?
We haven't really had time to go over necessarily an in-depth analysis of how Wizards has responded to each of these. We've kind of hit some of the highlights. But I do want to say that it's no matter what your feelings are, I do think it's unfortunate anytime and every time a leak happens, because they put a lot of thought into how they're going to release the cards. Sometimes they try and do neat things. Like you remember how with Jace the Mind Sculptor, they did the kind of geocaching thing where people could put the pieces of the card together.
Yep.
They have things like the new Phyrexia versus Mirrored Impure. So they put a lot of thought into this. It's not just, okay, well, we're going to release this card on this date and this card on this date. There's a lot that goes into it. I do, again, despite my initial reactions on Monday, I appreciate that it's always a difficult situation to put them in, and that they are trying their best, and that this time at least, I very much appreciate the open communication about what happened and why it happened and what they're doing about it. So that I think is preferable to the we shouldn't say anything at all. And I do think sometimes they have to not say anything at all if it involves some sort of legal proceeding.
Yep.
But when they can say something, I think it's always preferable to kind of let us know, okay, we regret what happened, but instead of just kind of leaving it open to speculation. So we're going to.
Yeah. Like I think all the way up, I know up through, like the note says that we read earlier for judgment, all the way up through then, they
Everybody
just didn't
okay?
comment on stuff. I don't know.
Did somebody just die?
That was me.
Oh, Dirk, do you need to go?
Yeah, I'm kind of dozing off.
I figured that was your head hitting the microphone. Well then, hey Dirk, you have any final thoughts?
As we're going through these different leaks and everything, it really kind of feels like did they have a little line, like a little chain link that says, unless you're authorized, don't go past this point, and they just sort of didn't leave a guard there to enforce the chain sort of thing? Because it feels like
velvet rope, man. Velvet rope.
It's like, unless only authorized people past this point, and then they just sort of left the door unlocked so that people would be like, well, I want to peek in and see what's going on, and then they brought their camera.
Well, it seems like almost every leak is just them giving out information wrong rather than someone sneaking in and taking it.
Yeah, except for Rank Riddell.
Well, yeah.
It really does feel like some of these are. Was it not contained within just a handful of people who had the authorization to release this stuff, and everyone else was told, okay, you don't have authorization to release this information, so don't do it. Only these people can do this, and were these people just thinking, well, it wouldn't hurt just to let one picture go out, and it won't be that big a deal, and then all of a sudden, I mean, it just really feels like for some of these that they allowed themselves to be compromised and have these cards released early. So
some of it involves just the process of getting physical cards created.
And I can understand that that's their physical cards. Sometimes, someone goes in while no one's looking, and they're just like, looking both ways. Someone grabs a card off the stack and, just sort of walks out and says, all right, I'm going to make some money off this card. I can understand that potentially happening, and those people should definitely be prosecuted and everything of that sort. But some of these really do just feel like, oh, well, we had it on this flash drive and we accidentally left it at this spot. And like it was, like we were just walking around and we happened to bump into somebody who had the same flash drive as we did, and we swapped out the flash drives. And the person who had it was a person who had, something to gain from publishing this information. It just feels kind of bumbled. As in,
and now it stars Seth Rogen, and it's awful.
Did I laugh at that?
I was thinking it.
So I remember I was in possession of leakable material at one point. I don't even know if I ever told you guys, but when I worked at name of place that did work for Dell, it was in like an industrial park area.
Oh, I remember you telling me this, but I can't remember how much later it was.
And there was a printing thing in one of the other buildings in this industrial complex, and a buddy of mine came up with, you remember the big like rules insert thing that you could fold out and it was a poster sort of thing that they would put in like core sets and whatnot? A dude brought me one unfolded. He's like, dude, check this out. And I'm like, what? He's like, don't you play Magic? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, have you heard of this? And I think it was M14, but I'm not entirely sure because I have no concept of the passage of time, so I don't remember when I worked there. But I do remember it was one of the reprintings of Shivan Dragon. But there was this big rules insert, and one of the little card arts that was on it was Shivan Dragon, and we didn't know that Shivan Dragon was going to be in that set. It might have been M10, but I don't think so. I think it was M14. Like I said, I can't remember when I worked there.
Shivan Dragon would have shown up in like those little welcome decks or the deck builder's toolkit or something. It wasn't a booster pack card.
Like I said, I have no idea what it was in, but it was this rules insert thing, and that was like one of the cards.
It was counted as part of M14 for the purposes of tournament legality, but it wasn't a booster pack card.
How did that start back then?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, cool. But either way, we didn't know that it was in the set, and it was shown on this rules insert that had just been printed, and someone snatched one and was like, hey, a buddy of mine plays this, give me that. And he walked over and showed it to me, and I was like, huh. No, it's not a big thing, it's not a new card, it was just a reprint, but it was a reprint we didn't know about. But I didn't go telling everybody.
Yeah.
I just sort of sat on it. I'm like, huh, that's pretty neat. And even if it had been a new card, I might have told these guys, but I would have been, we cannot mention this on the show. This is not a thing we're ever going to talk about ever, okay?
It's just when you open up a Facebook chat and you're like, hey, Prillman, you want to see a card? And just watch him disconnect. You could probably do that now, actually. You don't actually have to have the card. He's disconnecting.
That's pretty... Brian Perlman has left the group. Oh! So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. But there are any number of ways that cards can be accidentally leaked. And like I said, it looks like freaking everyone that could happen has.
I'm looking forward to the future of mistake leaks where it's just going to be like, and then this one person's Fitbit accidentally logged the number of steps that it would take to get from here to here, and therefore Damnation reprinted.
Anyway, sorry, Derek, I interrupted that just to throw out the physical location.
That's just my final thought on it. Was just it kind of feels like some of these were very much avoidable mistakes, and so, but yeah, that's my thought on it. I am looking forward to the Dominaria set and getting the previews for it. And with that, I am headed to bed.
Good night, Zerg.
I've got stuff I gotta get some sleep.
Please do sleep.
All right, bye guys.
Bye, man.
Bye, Dirk.
Poor Dirk. I didn't realize how long we'd been going. Or I'd have been like, Dirk, wake up and go to bed. A long time ago.
I'll just pick up with what I was saying when it's time for my final thought, I think.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll just keep mine short and sweet because I will also be sleeping. Chewie, tomorrow, this is not my final thought, but tomorrow, Chewie, if you're on sometime and I'm out of court, let me know because I got the Challenge a Friend quest on Hearthstone.
Oh, okay.
Or Mike, whoever, I'm not saying, but Chewie has a better chance of being home in the middle of the day, and probably by the time Mike is off work, I'm going to be doing all this stuff with Carrie. So my final thought is I think it's kind of a rough week just in that in the last 2 days we've lost both Stephen Hawking, who made some incredible contributions to science, most of which go so far beyond me. I'm not going to dishonor him by even trying to understand, let alone restate them. And then we also lost or are in the process of losing Toys R Us. And I'm just like, dang, you got the smart intellectual side and the childish side right here. And you're just like, man,
Toys R Us was like Mecca when I was a kid.
Yeah. I remember getting the big book and, going there. And before I even really got into video games, that's still where I get stuff. But once I started to get into it, I remember going to a Toys R Us as a kid, and I wanted to buy Mario 2. And my dad was there, and somebody else was there, a cousin or someone, and they were saying, like, no, we've heard better things about Mario 3. Mario 3 was brand new. Everybody was all into it. And I insisted on getting 2 because it was the next one chronologically, and you can't not play them in order. And now I remember that, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, 2 was a decent game, but I actually put off buying Super Mario 3 so that I could play Super Mario 2. Dang,
did it mess
son.
with you later when you found out it wasn't really a Mario game?
I'll still call it a Mario. I know it's a reskin, Doki, whatever.
No, I mean, like, it's a Mario game now. Like, they've acknowledged it in Japan, too. Like, that's just what it is. I just did that mess with you later.
No, not really. But in terms of, I guess that's always how I've approached games is like, even though there's no story between Marios, I think this is one of the reasons I've been attached to RPG since Final Fantasy 2, which was the first one /4, the first one I ever had, is the story. So when you read a story, unless it's choose your own adventure, you don't go 3 chapters and then look at the title for chapter 4 and go, that sounds boring. What's chapter 5? And if you do that, I will hunt you down. The English major / creative writer / whatever in me
/
offended by the way you live your life. If you do read like that, send us an email and let me know why and what's wrong with you. I'm kidding. Slightly. I'm tired too. So at this point, Bill, it's good to talk to you. And everybody else, have a good night. And I'll be back to speak a whole lot more about Dominaria next week. And if you think I talked a lot this time, get ready.
I do think you talked a lot this time. I better get ready.
You better. So, how about one of you?
I mean, Mike had something he wanted to say, so let him do that.
Yeah. So I was going through just to close up on talking about how Wizards had responded. For a very, very long time, their responses were played really close. They didn't go out of their way to say a lot. Like we were talking about earlier, all the way up through Judgment, they just didn't respond to leaks, period. Partly because they didn't want people to start playing games with rumors to get them to tease out information based on Wizards' response. But like for the Time Spiral, they went ahead. I do remember they went ahead and acknowledged, we're going to go put the legal elbow on someone. For Conflux, I do remember that they acknowledged the details of how that got bungled and how that happened. For New Phyrexia, they waited until they were ready to tell the whole story and drop everything all at once. For Oath of the Gatewatch, they waited probably a little longer than they should have, even though what happened was so crappy with the particular things that got leaked early.
Yeah,
they waited maybe a little longer than they should have to acknowledge what was going on and try to give an explanation of what people were looking at. They were pretty open, like I said, with the conflicts, with acknowledging the bungle. They were pretty open with the honest mistakes, like the card showing up in the wrong booster packs, about how that happens. Like, that was just a problem with the printers, sorry. And really, for the others, it was like, for most of the others, it was some variation of, stealing stuff is bad. And Dominaria, it seems like they're going more out of their way to give a complete explanation and like a better cohesive plan for what to do and to try to stay on some kind of schedule with it, while still acknowledging that there's all this information that came out earlier than we expected. That can't be helped. And we're going to work with it the best way we can. I think they're being much more open about it than they have with anything else.
More transparency is always better.
Yeah.
And stuff like this, I think. So is that it?
But clearly the most appropriate response to any of these was locking up Brian Perlman. Okay.
I mean, if he's locked up, he can't be out there, molding up the streets. So.
Right, exactly.
Or mossing
out the streets.
Yeah, molding would be weird. He shouldn't do that. No, don't do that. Mossing is your thing. Verbs that are not verbs for 500, Alex.
Oh, I lost that game.
Spoilers. So, how about you there, Mr. Squee?
I haven't had a final thought in a long time. We don't do that on our show. Mostly I talk about money, or I talk about Magic Online for 10 minutes while Clues finds pictures of cats.
Yeah,
so,
usually, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just say that as someone who works in marketing for a big company, I encounter, like, you know, not as much in my very current role, but throughout the years I've worked there, I definitely encountered stuff that's like, this doesn't go public until we say it does. In fact, that's what the majority of any kind of information release is. Like marketing, PR, all of that boils down to there's a journey that you want the customer to take that starts with you sharing information with them, and then you continue to give it to them as you take them, whether you're taking them to sales or you're taking them to, in the case of Magic, building up the critical amount of hype so that they eventually buy a bunch of stuff or play in their local F&M or do whatever. Like, these are very calculated things, and it's not just because it maximizes, you know, earnings for the company. I mean, it's the main reason they do it. But you can, in fact, change the experience someone has. That's why we have movie teasers and trailers. Like, I promise, Disney knows you're going to go watch Star Wars and the next Marvel movie. You're going to do it. They still release teases and trailers and all that to get you excited and to create an environment where you enjoy the movie more. So all of these leaks take away from that. Like, as it is, I don't care about Masters 25 at all. Right now, I was going to buy some packs and just open them on Monday Night Magic, but like now, like, nobody cares. Like, I don't care. No one else cares. So at minimum, this has cost them me buying 4 packs of this set and then losing money on the internet. So that is the first cost. It will not be the last. But I do kind of worry that pushing all of this along means that I'll get super hyped up for Dominaria, and then, you know, 3 weeks will go by and I'll be like, yeah, I guess that came out. So keep that in mind when it comes to spoilers. And if you know people that are trying to avoid it, don't talk to them about it. Like, let them take things at their own pace. They might be trying to keep that experience. I appreciate the fact that there's still going to be preview cards, and apparently Chewie is going to get one. So at the very least, don't look at any spoilers until after he gets to do a preview card.
Yay.
Yeah. Be decent. Obey time. Otherwise, you end up with dragons everywhere, and that's not as cool as it sounds. So that's that for me. Go Chewie. Maniple, Maniple, Maniple.
Well,
hey, were you there? I'm in the Maniple.
Did you tell people where they could find you on...
Oh, yeah. You can find me on Twitter at SqueeGoblin. There's no Iron Goblin because it actually went to the Monday Night Magic studio by mistake, and it's just sort of, I guess, bored by now. It's probably looking at its phone. But I'm here, and I will probably continue to tweet about, you know, fun movies and stuff as they come out. I'm not going to drown you with all that stuff because I do that on Mondays. But a lot of nerd movies this month. Looking forward to them.
Yay. All right, then. Hey, Mike.
Yes.
If a morph creature is hit with supernatural stamina, which says, blah, 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 when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, it comes back face up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. While I was poking around...
the default state for a permanent to enter the battlefield is always with the front face showing, face up, unflipped, untapped, unless something else specifically says it enters the battlefield some other way. In this case, it's entering the battlefield tapped.
All right, then. While I was poking around on Twitter during that, I saw a question directed at Clues, and Clues' ass had better be asleep, because he was, you know, miserable. So I answered it for him, but I wanted to double check that I didn't just answer it wrong.
Yeah.
So you're welcome, unnamed person who saw this Twitter response several days ago.
It'll even return something that isn't a creature when it's face up. It'll even return like a Zoetic Cavern.
Yep. Which is a neat trick.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway. So as for me, yeah, we're all over the internet as the Manipool. I do streams on Twitch, the Manipool. I do YouTube videos, the Manipool. Twitter, the Manipool. Facebook, the Manipool. All of that stuff. Instagram, the Manipool. And if you want to help support what I do with this ridiculous amount of content creation, then by all means, check out patreon.com/themanipool, where you can get Manipool episodes and YouTube videos early, if you so choose. You can get early stuff and access to the odds and ends, all the stuff recorded before and after, both Monday Night Magic and the Manipool, that I am almost caught up on. I put up the half that survived from the Mana Pool 500 last night, and I started on the Monday Night Magic from earlier this week. So, yay! Which means this episode's odds and ends will go up sometime next week. And if you want, you can even become a Mana Pool lifeguard, which gets you the early stuff, the odds and ends, and a shout out on both podcasts, and your name on the end slate for all the videos that go up in each month that you support at that tier. To that end, I would like to thank the following very generous Mana Pool lifeguards. And they are Kim Ho, Andrew Hunt, Al, Rafe Gall, Corey Cloutier, Paul David, Lance Delicious, Team You Hellas Are You, John Morris, Stuart Slaw, PJ McMullen, Bosco Brattain, Casey, Nathan Hay, Danny Liao, AJ. Oh.
All right.
Jay's name gets longer every time you hurt.
Ow. I might have just aggravated a muscle pull in my neck, shoulder area somehow. Okay, let me try that again. Who was I? Was it AJ? AJ Javieres. Cody Buckowing, Jake Jansons, Jason Kaus, Brian DeLucci, Stark Maximum, Jimmy Scott, Dan Holm. I turned wrong. Sorry. Mike Miller Burned, and the Beast Father, Aaron Goodwine. Ow, I apologize.
You would get killed during a sign-off after saying the letters AJ, wouldn't you?
Oh, right? It's not even that AJ.
Yeah, that's because this one's doing the killing.
And a lot of people have asked me this, and I meant to do it at the earlier before the odds and ends, before the sign-outs, but they have announced that the non-disclosure agreement for Magic the Gathering Arena will go away on the 22nd of this month. So apparently Thursday evening. I am not in the beta. I've got to stop moving. I am not in the beta because I wasn't gonna bother playing until I could make content out of it. Now that I can make content out of it, I don't actually know if I'm gonna get in the beta or if I'll just wait for the full release. It seems like enough people really want me to get in the beta because, Magic content. So, I guess I can give it a shot, but no promises. Like, lots of people are still waiting to get in the beta. I know Brian apparently got in the beta and they never sent him a link to actually download it. So he keeps getting surveys about it and he's like, I can't answer this. But he hasn't had the time or interest to actually go fix this issue. So I don't know. I guess I will make the effort to get in the beta and see what happens. But as of right now, no, because I'm not in the beta. If we knew how long the beta was going to last, I would be able to better gauge it. Like, if they're like, okay, we're going to be in beta for, 3 months, then sure. But I get the feeling it's going to be more like 6 or 8 or 10 or 12. I'm just saying. Because apparently it's just like Ixalan block constructed at the moment. Which sounds not fascinating. But whatever, we'll see how that shakes out. I will be doing arena content at some point, I promise, because I can't wait. But I also don't want to jump into a beta that I don't enjoy and get soured on it. And then they go, okay, well, here's all the stuff people didn't like, we fixed it. And me go, I don't give a damn, it already sucks. So
that's why you're not on the PTR.
Yeah, that's why I don't mess around on the PTR and Overwatch or anything like that. Like, I don't, as much as I understand why they do early access and things, I don't like it myself, for me personally. So I don't know. Let me mull on it a while. This announcement came, today? So I haven't, and I've been enjoying being alive for the first time in a week. So I don't know. Please hold. So now with that, is that everything? That's everything, right? Good answer. Okay, so with that, we will be going now. Thank you so much, Bill, for joining us. It's good to have you back in the pool.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Get your trunks on, son.
Oh, we were supposed to. Never mind.
Are you naked in the pool, Bill?
No, I'm making bubbles. Leave me alone.
Are you? Ew. So yeah. Oh my God! I completely forgot. We got all sucked into the conversation. Jungle Rat Rob
of the Retro League. This conversation was so good that I completely forgot to drop this in earlier. Jungle Rat Rob of the Retro League, in years past, has done like audio clip montages set to music of various clips from various shows that are, you know, all just funny lines and whatnot. And he sent us one hiccup. He sent us one just like an hour before the show started that he and his girlfriend Cassandra put together. So, and I listened to it right before the show started, and it's awesome. So at some point in the near future, that will be up on the RSS feed for you guys to just download and listen to, because it's awesome. And I'll even try to track down the previous ones, links to them. I know they're there somewhere. I know I made a tag so that they're easy to find. I just don't remember what that tag is. So I'll see what I can track down. So yeah, that'll be awesome. Look for that on the feed and on the website in the very near future. And now with that, we're going to go. So this has been the Mana Pool number 501. Thank you all so very much for listening. I might need an ice pack or something. Like, this is bad. Thank you all. I got all into my outro, and so I moved. So thank you all so very much for listening. And go play some Magic.